What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Blazers Uprise post-game show. Here on a Valentine's Day, on a Monday, the Blazers win their third straight today, surprising the Milwaukee Bucks. Eric will be here later on in the stream, maybe in about 20 to 30 minutes or so. I'm going to be soloing it until then, talking about this Blazers win. Anfernee Simons has a big game. Josh Hart has another good game for the Blazers. He's looked phenomenal since putting on a Blazers uniform. Jusuf Nurkic has 23 points as well. I will discuss this game with you guys. I will discuss the positives. I will discuss the negatives. I will discuss it all. Eric's going to be hanging out with you guys in chat for a little bit, so I'm going to try and carry this thing as best as I can. Let's just jump straight into things. The Blazers going into this game were an 11.5 point underdog. They win by 15. This was a game the Bucks obviously played without Giannis Antetokounmpo, but still, it's a solid Bucks team with championship experience that struggled tonight. The Blazers defended well once again, and the theme for this game is you're seeing the Blazers find their identity. That's what they've been doing with this group. They've brought in players that fit Chauncey Billups better, and therefore they're able to establish some sort of identity. The team the Blazers had on the floor before the trade deadline didn't have much of an identity. They had more talent than this team does, but they didn't have an identity. This Blazers team has found their identity, and that's a team that cuts. That's a team that moves the ball. That's a team that plays really, really hard. They played extremely hard tonight, and it's a team that's fun to watch. And when you do those things, when you play the right way, you can make up for a little bit of a lack of talent. They're still without Damian Lillard. Nasir Little isn't here. They're starting CJ Ellaby. He played 35 minutes tonight. Watford, 23 minutes off the bench. McLemore, 20. Elijah Hughes, 16 minutes. And Greg Brown, 14 minutes. Those are all guys that maybe aren't part of a contention-level rotation. I know some people might argue with me on Trendon Watford. That's a discussion we'll have later on in this show. But it's kind of just a mix-up of pieces, but they're playing the right way. They're playing defense. This has been a good defensive team the past few games. Offensively, this team had 30 assists on 45 shots. This is a team that moves the ball. We saw numerous times throughout this game. You had six players with at least 4 assists. Simons has 6, Hart has 5, Watford in 23 minutes off the bench has 5 assists to go with 10 boards and 9 points. He hit his first career 3. And then you have Winslow, Nurkic, and Ellaby all with 4 assists. McLemore 2 off the bench as well to add up to 30. But the story of this game is when you look at the Bucks shooting percentage, especially Chris Middleton, he was kind of their go-to guy offensively. Without Giannis tonight, he's 3 for 15 from the field and 1 for 8 from 3. Middleton really struggled throughout this game, and without Giannis, they needed him to step up and perform. He was not able to do so. A big part of that was the way the Blazers defended tonight. Let's take a look at the team stats. Let me switch this over from the last game to today. Milwaukee shoots 43% from the field, 32% from 3. If you remember earlier in this season, almost every road game, you'd see the Blazers' opponent shooting 55% from the field and above 40% from 3. It seems like those days are over. Milwaukee only 43 and 32. They got to the line 24 times, knocked down 75% of their shots. The Blazers just shot better. 18 for 43 from 3 for the Blazers. You had Jusuf Nurkic hitting 2 threes. You had Josh Hart shooting well. He shot well in his first couple of games in a Blazers uniform. And then the Blazers got 10 more shots. So shooting better and getting 10 more shots is a recipe for success against any team, no matter how much better they are than you. 14 offensive rebounds to 6 for Milwaukee. Milwaukee's a great rebounding team. The Blazers just got it done with hustle, though. They crashed the glass hard all throughout this game. Jusuf Nurkic rebounded really well. Justice Winslow was in there mixing it up. We'll look at individual rebounding numbers a little bit later when we have Eric on the stream. But, that goes to show this team is getting in there, mixing it up against a great rebounding team to out-rebound them by 15. And on the offensive glass, to out-rebound them 14-6 is extremely impressive. And the only way you do that against a good rebounding team is busting your ass. So good on Portland for that. The turnover numbers pretty equal. Fast break points, Milwaukee got out and ran a little bit, but outside of that, they weren't able to get anything going in the half court. Points in the paint were pretty even. That's a good number for a Blazers team that's still a little bit undersized right now. Largest lead was 21 for Portland. For Milwaukee, it was 5. So very impressive statistical game from the entire team today. Those are the team stats. So we can get into... Do you guys want me to get into the optimism and the positivity, or do you want me to get into the realism looking at next year? Because I want to touch on both those things before Eric gets on here. I just want to know which one you guys want me to start with. Whenever I solo stream, I like to kind of run this like a democracy. You guys choose the flow of the show, okay? Let's see. We got negativity, no negativity, positive, no negative ever. Beavis wants to be toxic. He says pure negativity. Yeah, you guys want the optimism, okay? You guys want the optimism, and I'll give you the optimism. I mean, I'm more open to some of these players maybe being contributors next year than I was a few games ago. And it's hard to judge players when they get traded to a team, because all you can do is just judge them on what they've done in previous stops and what they've shown from a talent level. Justice Winslow has been impressive defensively. He's a guy that can pass. Everything he's done hasn't really surprised me. He's just fit in seamlessly because the rest of this team has taken on Chauncey Billups' identity as a coach. And if you put Justice Winslow on this team to start the season, I think he looks terrible all season long. But with this team, it fits a guy like him better. So guys like that, it might be easier for a Justice Winslow. Maybe even an Eric Bledsoe might fit this team better, given that they are kind of embracing Chauncey's identity, much more so than the team at the start of the year did. The team at the start of the year had much more talent, but they didn't have much of an identity. Their identity was Dame's going to make everything happen offensively, and we're going to be an elite offensive team because of it, and we're going to try and outscore teams. That was the identity. So then when Dame was injured, it fell apart. You know, Dame still played in games, but he couldn't quite carry the team like that. So without that, the team had pretty much no identity. The team still played selfishly. The team still, dominated the ball, too ISO heavy and whatnot. And Chauncey tried to help them transition into a better style of play by not changing things too drastically at the beginning of the season. Chauncey tried to kind of slowly introduce change so he wasn't throwing them too much out of their comfort zone. Also, it was Chauncey's first time ever being a head coach, so, I don't think he had the confidence that he did now. Maybe he would have handled it a little bit differently, a little bit better with a little bit of experience. Maybe he would have been able to get, a Norman Powell or Robert Covington to buy into his ideas a little bit more, but I think from the get-go it was obvious that those guys weren't fully bought in. Robert Covington chased steals all season and wasn't that good defensively at all. Norman Powell had a lot of possessions where he was very lackadaisical and lazy, and it resulted in what happened at the trade deadline, and it's why the Blazers are still 10 games under 500 after winning 3 straight. So the positivity, I think the biggest positive from how the Blazers have played the last 3 games or so is I am much more confident in Chauncey Billups as a head coach than I was a few games ago. And I think it's becoming obvious how much certain guys were maybe the problem with the team. And it wasn't even necessarily, we're playing 3 guards or we're playing 3 guys that are 6'3", and that's the problem with our defense. There wasn't good vibes around this team. There wasn't a good energy around this team. There wasn't enough hustle around this team. We started off, 10-1 at home to start the season, but on the road, we were like 1-10. I don't remember the exact numbers, but it was something along those lines. When the Blazers went on the road to start the season, they had no energy. They came out flat. Their attention to detail was horrible. And that is a night and day difference with the team you saw tonight. So I don't think that I'm not worried about players not buying into Chauncey's system because it's a problem with Chauncey. You just have to have players that are willing to do that, and if you have players that aren't willing to buy into his system, there's really nothing that he can do to get players to play the right way. So that was kind of up in the air before this, where I didn't know if it was necessarily a problem with Chauncey's approach, and it could have been. He's probably gotten better as a coach as the season has gone along, but I didn't know whether it was a problem with Chauncey or how much of it was the players. And I think now that you have this lineup in here playing as well as they are, it's pretty obvious that, to me at least, Chauncey knows what he's doing. Now I think he's going to have a ton of confidence. Now he's like, okay, it's not a problem with me. Look at the way I got these guys playing. So that's the most positive takeaway from the last 3 games for me, is I have more confidence in Chauncey than I had since the season began. It's frustrating that the Blazers couldn't play this way with the players they had on the roster to start the season, because I thought that was a more talented team. And if they had, if they had the capability of playing like this, that could have been a really dangerous playoff team. The problem is, for whatever reason, certain guys couldn't conform to the vision that Chauncey had. And in some ways, it's been addition by subtraction. Okay, that's the positive. Now I'm going to go into the realistic because it ties into this. The Blazers, in my opinion, if you add Dame and Nas to this is still a first-round exit team. Okay? There's different things you have to weigh when formulating a roster. You have to weigh roster balance, you have to weigh how the players fit together, how they fit in the locker room, and then obviously talent. And you have to get players that fit the identity of the head coach, that can play with an identity. The Blazers before didn't have players that played with an identity. Some of their fits were a little weird. You did have 6'3" guards in the starting lineup. So they have improved the roster balance a little bit. It's still loaded with guards, but in terms of, you got Justice Winslow, who plays... He's not the rim protector that Robert Covington is, but on the perimeter, he plays better perimeter defense, and the Blazers obviously needed a guy like that, and he can still protect the rim. He had a monster block today. You got Josh Hart, who's kind of a bigger guard, and he plays physical, and he is a guy that plays hard. So in terms of the identity and kind of the makeup of this team, it's not more talented than it was, but it's... I don't know. It's just a roster that is greater than the sum of their parts instead of less than the sum of their parts. The problem that I'm worried about, this is the one thing I'm worried about from this stretch, is I don't want the Blazers front office to get complacent because this team looks good. Because I still don't think this team has enough talent to, even with Dame, to make a run at a championship. And 3 games doesn't disprove that from me. This is a team that shot really well tonight, but let me just go down the line. Josh Hart, 5 for 9 from the 3-point line. He's a career 33% shooter. He's shooting 32% this year. If he turns out to be a 40% 3-point shooter, then I'm absolutely ecstatic. He might be a better player than CJ. Honestly, if he was a 40% 3-point shooter, then he would be a better player than CJ. He had a great shooting night, 5 for 9 tonight. Nurkic, 2 for 2 tonight. Simons, 7 for 16. And Simons is obviously the best shooter of the 3. But what happens when Josh Hart starts missing shots with this kind of group of players? Because he is going to. He's not the best 3-point shooter for his career. And this season, he's actually been a below average 3-point shooter. And he comes in here and in 2 games in Portland shoots the lights out. And people are ecstatic. And it's fun. And it's encouraging. But... you can't expect that to keep up. This team shot 42% from 3 tonight. The defense is good, but offensively, I'm not super confident in this group of guys, even if you get Dame back and Nas back. So I still think this team just needs another guy. I don't think that guy's Jeremy Grant. I don't really have a solution for who that guy is, but I talked about this on the second channel, Blazers Uprise Live, before the game. I still think this team needs another big-time offensive piece that doesn't hurt what this team is doing defensively. Okay, a piece that fits in with the identity of this team. That's why I don't like Jeremy Grant, because he doesn't fit in with the identity of this team. The only thing I'm worried about is this Blazers front office thinking, oh, well, we can just add, the 9th pick or whatever and the 12th pick, and this roster is ready to go with Dame. Maybe we'll go out and sign, a role-playing free agent. I think this front office needs to be extremely aggressive in trying to get another very high-level starter in the offseason, and I don't want this to be a situation where they become complacent. Maybe you guys don't share my worry with that, but that's one of my worries. And then the second part of that is it's going to be harder to get another high-level guy the more the Blazers win, because their pick is far less likely to be a top 3 pick or a top 4 pick. Okay, so that's kind of a two-pronged worry for me. If this team was losing a bunch of games, I think the front office would be more likely to be aggressive in the offseason, and it would be more likely they got a top 3 pick, and you'd be going into next year with like a Jabari Smith or a Banchero, and then another high-level starter that the Blazers go out and acquire via trade. Maybe it's a sign and trade, however they acquire that guy. And I would have a lot more confidence in that team than if it's a situation where, they get the 9th pick or the 10th pick because they won too many games and then they become complacent. Okay, that's just my realistic take. I know a lot of people aren't really worried with that and are buzzing because of the game, but you guys know I try and call it like it is and just share my thoughts on it. There's positives from this game. This team looks... The takeaway from this game is this team is closer than I thought after the trade deadline. Because after the trade deadline, I thought we were screwed if we didn't get a top 3 pick. Now that I've seen these guys accept Chauncey's identity, and I have more confidence in Chauncey as a coach to be able to make a really good team out of maybe, solid players. It's not a situation where you just have to give them a bunch of talent. I'm more confident in our position heading into the offseason. I just want the front office to not get complacent and accept let's just throw Eric Bledsoe into this mix and then we'll be even a little bit better and we get Dame and Nas and we're set. So that would be my message to the front office. You watch this team play and just imagine drafting a young, hungry rookie, a Jabari Smith, a Banchero, and adding them to this. That would be phenomenal. So I'm still kind of hoping for a top 3 pick. We can get lucky from the 10th slot in the lottery, of course. I would just love to add a top tier rookie to what this team looks like right now. So anyway, that's my realistic take on that. Let me know what you think in chat. I can read off some chat messages. Eric, what time are you going to be on stream? Let me know in chat. And I can kind of work my way to that. Anybody saying we're better without Dame? That's absolutely not the case. That's absolutely not the case. 5 to 7 minutes for Eric. Okay, cool. This team can play defense, but I feel like at some point this team is going to struggle to score. Tonight, that wasn't an issue. They move the ball. And that's the thing, is when you don't necessarily have a Dame or a go-to guy, like Simons is a go-to guy right now. He had 31 points today, had 30 last game. He looks phenomenal, and we'll talk about him in a second. There's a lot of positivity coming in the player cards, okay? So we'll get back to the positivity, the good vibes for you guys. But, when you don't have a superstar, or you only have one go-to guy, and then Josh Hart has played really well, but he's not somebody who necessarily creates a bunch off the dribble. When you move the ball well and you got guys that cut and draw additional defenders just by cutting to the rim and making the right cut, and then you're able to kick out for open threes, and you just have an offense that moves the ball and flows, it makes it much easier to have good offensive nights with the type of lineup the Blazers are putting out there right now. If this Blazers lineup was playing the ISO ball that they did at the start of the season, or if this Blazers lineup had Terry Stotts as their coach and were playing the ISO ball that they did last year, I don't think they score 100 points in this game. I don't think Josh Hart looks anywhere near as good. I think Justice Winslow looks horrible, right? But because they're moving the ball, Justice Winslow's cutting, and people are finding him, and then he's making the right pass out of that, or he's finishing. He looks very solid offensively because of the style of offense this team is playing. Josh Hart is getting some high-quality looks because of the way this team is moving the ball. Anfernee Simons got a high-quality look today because this team moved the ball and the Bucks were so discombobulated defensively that 2 guys ran out at Justice Winslow on the three-point line and ran him off the three-point line. It's Justice Winslow. 2 guys ran out at Justice Winslow and left Anfernee Simons wide open. Winslow just puff fake, took 1 dribble, kicked it to Simons, wide open 3. And it was because the ball was moving and they didn't realize it was Justice Winslow. If it was set and the guy was guarding Justice and Justice Winslow got the ball and his guy was already kind of set on him, it would be much more likely Justice Winslow's defender would not play up on him. But when you move the ball and get the defense shifting and they're having to cover for guys, they become a little bit disoriented and they don't know who certain players are on the floor. So just the style of offense this team, it fits Watford better, the way this team moves the ball, because he cuts, he makes the right pass. He had 5 assists tonight. He's a very smart player, especially for a two-way rookie. He fits in that a lot better than an ISO ball offense. So this offense looks very, very solid right now because of the way they're playing. I just wonder, at what point do they kind of struggle to move the ball? At what point do they, shots don't fall at such a high rate? I'll count on Nurkic going 2 for 2 from 3, maybe for the rest of the season. It's going to be interesting to see how this offense looks and how good this team looks when maybe their shots aren't falling as much. That's kind of what I'll be looking for after the free agency break, because we only have 1 game until then. And it might happen next game. I'm not sure. Eric will join us in a couple minutes. Eric, just call me when you're ready, and I'll get you on here. I have the desktop audio muted. Sorry to anybody who loves the Skype ringtone. Anyway, give me your takes in chat. I'll read chat for a couple minutes. Damani, what else is new, man? I have to wonder if Hart's playing his way into being the starting small forward next year. I don't want Hart as the starting small forward next year. I want him playing 32 minutes a game, but coming off the bench and playing all the backup guard minutes. Okay, you stagger Dame and Simons just like they used to stagger Dame and CJ. And then whenever one of them's out of the game, Hart's in at the shooting guard position. And then you can get some extra minutes for Hart by running him with Ant and Dame at the same time for small stretches during the game. And maybe at the end of games, depending on what types of lineups you're playing. If you're playing a lineup that was like, hypothetically, if you have Dame, Ant, and Hart, and you're going up a team that was built like the Blazers were to start the season with 3-6-3 guards, Hart plays 35 minutes a game and finishes games, right? But if you're going up against a bigger lineup with a really big small forward and a guy who scores, I know that Josh Hart competes really hard. He's strong. He defends forwards well. But I would also like to have like a 6'8", 6'9", Aminu-ish defender to throw up against guys like that. I think that's something that the team needs to look to go out and get this offseason. But I also just like Hart plays with a ton of energy. We need that off the bench. Next year, I want Hart and Nas to be our 6th and 7th men and just bring a ton of energy, defense, shot-making ability off the bench. Zach says, hashtag we want the Skype ringtone. Well, you might hear it through my earphone. Anyway, I'm going to try and read and catch up with chat. That's the thing is if Simons isn't having a good game next year, and you have a good defensive three that's maybe 6'7", 6'8", there's a Skype ringtone, then it's a situation where, maybe you end with Hart at the 2 and, that defender at the 3. Anyway, we got Eric. Let me unmute you and get you set here. Cool. What's up, Eric?
What's up, Tori? How you doing?
I'm doing good. You listened to this entire stream so far? I've been trying to touch on all the points I've wanted to make.
Yeah, I missed maybe 30 seconds, but yeah.
Okay, talk about any of it. I want your response to any of it, anything that you want to address that I've said so far on the stream.
All right, well, I was going to say this before I even heard you talk, but when in the regular season, if you have a team that plays hard and has a maybe superstar, you can win a lot of games, right? Just from that. Just playing hard every night, scrapping, having some defensive specialists. It doesn't really even matter how it fits if you play hard, move the ball, move on offense, attack the glass. And we did all these things tonight, right?
Yeah.
And Ant's basically our superstar right now, right? He's, taken over this since the calendar year flipped, and he's gotten this big role and stuff like that. So we have a team playing hard. We have guys who Chauncey likes and fits his style. And then we have Ant being Dame, basically, and carrying this team. I thought it was going to be Blevins, but, Ant will do. So I think a lot of this is just like Milwaukee sits Giannis tonight. He probably wasn't even really that hurt. They just thought they were going to win this game even without Giannis, and you can get by winning games like that. So, I'm not even really focused on it's like we always talked about. I'm not really focused on the results other than, whether that hurts our chances of getting a draft pick or not. But I'm just watching for what Billups is doing, and the guy is coaching his butt off right now. He's really, really doing a nice job with this roster, and the guy can coach, and he definitely made a very critical mistake with this team earlier in the season. He should have been coaching this way and demanding this out of people who weren't doing it. And instead, like you pointed out earlier in the show, he kind of got stuck between letting players play the way they want to play and be comfortable and playing the way he wanted them to play. And then it got to a point where he then couldn't go to his full style with those same guys. Because once you give certain people a little bit of leash or a little bit of a path to playing a certain way, you're done with those people, right? You can't ever get some people back. So I think he started to realize that before they were all traded, and those guys didn't necessarily respond. But that's why we played so well when we had all the people out in late December, early January. We had several players out like Norm and CJ. And this is nothing about their abilities or anything, but you could see instantly when those guys went out for a long period how much Chauncey's impact on the team was reflected in the players that were on the floor. And then they come back, and I don't think they necessarily did anything wrong when they came back. They were playing fine. Norm actually had some good games. CJ was trying his best to fit in, but you could just tell they weren't ever going to get to the point that Chauncey demanded out of them or thought they should be. And sometimes it's better to have lesser players with a good system and a good thing. And this is why you and I both thought this team would be better, because we thought Chauncey would be able to get through to some of these guys and have them playing this way from the beginning of the season. Unfortunately, that didn't pan out, so we lost that one. But this is why a guy like Chauncey could take, in my opinion, if you're a good coach, you can take a mediocre roster, give them an identity, have them play the way you want to play, and you can scheme things up and do things to where you don't need the talent to win games. Now, the problem is, like you also pointed out, is getting that to translate to contention, right? Mm-hmm. So that's the hard part, because we can sit here and win all these games, but like you said, that might make it harder to get that path to contention, because this is what people told us the last 2 years, right? Oh, well, we're not a contender because we don't have talent, right?
Yeah.
And we actually did have talent. It just
the
wasn't
style of play wasn't good enough.
The style of play wasn't right for whatever Chauncey needed for that. So now we see, like we told you guys, coaching matters, right? Like coaching makes a difference. And now we see a team with completely, like there's no way you could compare this team talent-wise to the team Stotts had last year or the year before. And so now we see that it's not necessarily about whether a coach can overachieve with the roster or whether he's underachieving or whatever. It's it's the style of play. And I love what I'm seeing out of Chauncey this last month and a half. I feel like when Dame comes back, he's not going to be a problem. Dame isn't going to be like, oh, you know what? I really like just shooting 30-footers and not moving the ball, and I don't like playing off ball, so I'm just gonna dominate the ball, and I'm not gonna play defense because there's 4 other guys now on the court that can play defense. Dame's not gonna play like that. He wants to win a championship. He is going to fit in and conform to whatever it is, and he's going to play his butt off. And I feel like he's going to be healthy. So I think there's another thing at play here too, where people said you can't go young with Dame right now, right? And I'm saying, why not? Why not, right? Why can't you just, if we end up with 2 lottery picks, just hoping at least one of them develops and it might, like we talked about earlier today, it might not be next year that we're a contender, but a young team, if players continue to play hard and pop, and Dame is Dame, and then we have Ant somewhere close to Dame at some point, and we have long-rangey defenders on the wing, I think I agree. That's one thing we're missing still, is we need a big forward who can just get after it. We have smaller guys now that can get after it, but we need a big forward or some sort of just difference maker at the 3, 4, or 5 position that has a lot of length and athleticism. So I think if you do all that stuff, I don't see why Dame can't come in and be like, oh, man, this team is fun. We're playing the right way. Like, why not us type of attitude. And I think that can go a long way. Like you said, I don't know if that can lead to contention, but I do like the mindset, and I hope, like you said, they don't ruin it by bringing in someone who kind of both affects the identity and affects the general like happiness of the team by, I don't want to pick on Jeremy Grant. I don't want to pick on him, right? But you see statements like he wants to be the first option on a team. He gave up playing on a contender to go to Detroit, one of the worst teams in the league, stuff like that. Those kind of guys are exactly what kills this kind of team, right? They don't help that team reach contention. They kill it, right? Mm-hmm. And that's why
they have talent.
Yes. But the talent doesn't, you have to have the right mix of talent. So yeah, if Jeremy Grant came in, bought in, and played a role, just shot threes, didn't monopolize the ball, played good defense or whatever, that's great. But he's not going to do that. He doesn't want to do that. You're going to try to force him to do that.
Well, I think the best way to explain it is you have to try and maximize different areas, and it's not just talent, right? You have to maximize how the pieces fit together. You have to have the right combinations of roles, right? You can't just have 10 scorers that don't play defense, right? So you have to have players in the right roles that play their roles to the best of their ability. You have to maximize the identity. Like, teams need to play with an identity. And the best identity to play with is just a team that moves the ball, but can rely on, stars to go and get things done when they need to. And then they play hard defensively and are able to, play a couple different defensive schemes, right? Just look at the Phoenix Suns. You have to maximize certain areas of the team along with the talent, okay? So that's where that was my point at the start of the stream, is like, they're playing well right now, but I don't want this front office to get complacent and not add enough talent this offseason. But you can't just add talent that takes away from, the identity of the team or the style of play of the team. You have to add talent that fits into what this team has been doing these past couple of games, that fits into Chauncey's identity. And Jeremy Grant has talent, but I haven't really been on board the Jeremy Grant train because he doesn't really help this team fulfill what their identity needs to be.
Yep. And see, this is the challenging part, and why we wanted more assets right out of these trades is because, yes, we can. I believe now maybe we've located our, 4th through 8th guys on the roster, But Ant could be 2. He could be a 2, right? I mean, he's looking like a 1 right now.
Yeah.
I'm just talking about like long-term fit with the roster. I believe in Ant as a number 2. Whether you do or not is completely up to your opinion. I don't want to
I don't see how people can question that he's a number 2 at this point, but some people apparently are.
I mean, I understand that people are worried about when Dame comes back, him and Dame having duplicacy problems or whatever, and that's fine. But
what? Okay. Here's my question to all those people. What do they specifically mean by duplicacy problems? Players that can catch and shoot and drive and score and create for themselves and create for others? It's a bad thing to have 2 guards that do that? I don't understand the issues with that, because both those guys can play on or off the ball, so what's the issue?
Yeah. Well, I think the issue is that they're both like similar size guards, and that's what
does that matter on offense?
They have problems with that after seeing the last 10 years of the other thing.
But here's the thing. It's the previous teams didn't have a good identity. Mm-hmm. Okay? And that's the point they didn't have a good style of play. And that's the point me and Eric tried to make for years, is that Terry Stotts did not try and push a style of play that was better for this roster. And people made the excuse like, oh, well, look who he has on the roster. But it's like when CJ was hurt and we were starting Gary Trent Jr. at the 2, it was the same exact way, right? And it was no matter who we had on the floor, it was the same ISO-heavy style of play without enough of an emphasis on defense. We'd hear news when they had a whole practice to focus on defense, and it was like groundbreaking. It was like a groundbreaking idea to have a practice that focused on defense, right? And when players were hurt, Eric, you heard, oh, well, what do you expect Stotts to do? He doesn't have enough talent. And we would always say, you got to get these guys playing the right way. And if you get these guys playing the right way, then despite being injured and maybe less talented, they'll be able to be competitive. And what we've seen the last 3 games is a team that's not super talented, but they're playing the right way. And they were down 23 against New York, but they came back and won by 9, right? With a lineup that if it was Stotts, they'd be saying, oh, he has a terrible lineup. They're starting CJ Ellaby. They're starting Justice Winslow. They're playing Greg Brown the 3rd minutes, right? But, I think Chauncey has kind of proven us right in that regard, in that you can be competitive with the lesser roster if you play the right style of way. The problem is, with Dame and CJ and with Norm, and even before they had Norm, they didn't play with the right style of play. people shouldn't hold that against a potential Damon Simons backcourt going forward, because if Damon Ant, I mean, I don't know which one I prefer. We've said Damon CJ so long and that just rolls off the tongue, but Damon Ant, if a Damon Ant backcourt can play within this style of play, which I think they can, there's not going to be as many issues. There's not going to be as many offensive duplicative issues. There's not going to be as many defensive issues. It's going to be a better, more sustainable winning product. So people should give that a chance, because I think Chauncey's showing that he can get a better style of play out of these guys. I don't know, I'll let you touch on that. I want to make one more point about that backcourt after you touch on it.
Yeah, I mean, and that's not even factoring in that Ant has improved on defense a lot, and he's contributing to this defense right now. And Dame and CJ have been on good defensive teams that ranked in the top 10 in defense for the entire season. It's not like those teams were always 30th or whatever. Like, if you have the right pieces around them and good coaching, good schemes, and have guys who play hard and get benched if they don't play hard and all that kind of stuff, I don't think there's any issues with a Dame and Ant backcourt.
Yeah, and here's the thing, is people talk about duplicative issues. I don't see that it's a problem that having two guards that do what they do compared to a guard and a forward. Because here's the thing, right, is you can't hide a bad defensive guard as easily, right? Because if you have a guard and a forward, and an opposing team has, a decent defensive forward and a decent defensive guard, and maybe the guard who's questionable defensively, it's easier to match up than if they have to put their good defensive forward on one of our guards who maybe that defensive forward isn't as good at guarding, if that makes sense, right? It's a lot harder to hide a bad defensive guard or cover for a bad defensive guard when you're going against a team that has two lights out guards. Because it ends up in a situation where the only way to hide them is to maybe take your 3 or your 4 and put them on one of the guards. And there's teams like Portland in the past had guys that could do that with Aminu and Harkless, right? But there's teams with like Jay Crowder on Anfernee Simons. I'm not worried about that. You know what I mean? Like,
it had a pretty good game on Drew today.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, yeah, they got Mikal Bridges, but if they didn't, Jay Crowder is a good defensive player against forwards, but I don't trust him throughout a series against guards. Yeah, I mean, Chris Paul can guard one of them, but then what? You're going to put Devin Booker on one of them, or you're going to put Jay Crowder? You know what I'm saying? That's just like an example of a team that comes to mind. There are teams that doesn't matter against, but there are teams with forwards that defend forwards well that struggle more against guards, and it's a situation where they would have to play a guard who's maybe questionable defensively up against a Simons or a Dame, and then whichever one of those guys is guarded by that guy gets to eat, or they have to put a forward up against a guard who maybe isn't as good defensively in that situation. So I think there's situations, depending on the team you're going against, where it might be better to have two good offensive guards than a good offensive guard and a good offensive forward, simply because it can be a little bit harder to match up against depending on the makeup of your team.
Yep, I agree.
Hopefully that makes sense. It's kind of hard to explain, but anyway.
So many timeouts. Okay, back to my original point. Okay, so whether you think Ant is a 1 or a 2 or a 3, whatever, that's not important for this conversation. But what is important is I feel like we have found, our 4 through 8, 4 through 9. Like we're finding those guys this year, and that's what's going to be important the rest of this year, is identifying which ones are those. And I think what you're worried about is thinking that those guys are going to be like our top 5 players or whatever, and that we don't improve that second or third spot on the roster, right? So that's going to be the crucial thing.
That's where I'm hoping we just lose and get a top 3 pick,
right,
man.
Right. Yeah, because if we hit on the draft pick, even if, there's been plenty of examples of staying later in the lottery or outside the lottery where you can still hit on that player. You just have to be a lot more, I don't know if luck is the right word, but like you kind of have to see something or find something in someone that develops more than most people thought. Like Giannis, for example, or Rudy Gobert, like a lot of those type of players, like they try to find the next one, but they don't have the same drive as those players, or they don't have the same like motivation or coaching or whatever, and they don't ever reach those points. So you have to find the right person first of all, and then you get him with the Chauncey Billups, and I feel like it would be over at that point. But we just need to find that person, and hopefully we have a chance at two of those people, because if we hit on both picks, it might be game over for the rest of the league in a couple of years. And that's why I don't want to necessarily trade those picks for someone who's not a legit difference maker. Now, if we can get like a Siakam or something, even if we have to trade both of those picks, I probably wouldn't do it if we move up. But like, if we had two like mid to late lottery picks and we could trade them both for a Siakam, I would have to strongly consider that. I don't know where you stand on that, if you would be down for that. But
if you get Siakam would fit the identity of this team, and it'd be the talent that we need. You know what I mean? I mean, look at how good Justice Winslow looks at the 4. Mm-hmm. Pascal Siakam is
much better.
A really good version of Justice Winslow. You know what I mean? Like, he's a forward that can pass. He can actually shoot, hit some shots off the dribble, handle the ball. Defensively is really has been better this year, I think, than he's been last year. He's improved in that regard. So Pascal Siakam in that role, he'd fit the team's identity, and he'd be that guy that has championship experience that could, be that guy, big three, along with Dame and Ant, right? Because Ant's playing like a star. If you want to talk about big threes, I know it's cliche and kind of surface level, but you want a third guy that you can put with Dame and Simons. Siakam would be phenomenal. So if we don't get a top 3 pick, then I'm praying that something like that becomes available. It's just, it's every individual idea to get that third guy via trading like 2 late lottery picks is a long shot.
Yeah.
So that's why I'd rather just get a top 3 pick.
But I'm also comfortable, even if we get 2 late lottery picks, just taking a chance and on best players available and hoping, at least one of them pans out sooner rather than later.
I mean, Eric, but if this team continues to be successful, especially with their late season schedule, which is extremely easy, I think there's a possibility that Dame comes back for a play-in game, and I think there's a possibility the Blazers play their way into the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, definitely possible. I mean, I'd be surprised if teams are taking us lightly since the trade deadline, right?
Yeah.
They're obviously, I mean, I guess the Laker game was before that, but we had already made all our trades. But I think there's a little bit of teams think we've given up on the season, and so they don't even really have to show up. But I mean, if we lose our pick, we kind of mentioned this last stream. If we lose our pick, then it does make it so we can trade any future picks. So maybe we can find a way to make that useful to us.
Yeah, and I mean, we could still have
a negative way.
Yeah, late lottery pick despite making the playoffs, and it's like we kept our pick and got it a little bit better. I guess you could look at it that way. But I mean, we are being taken lightly. That's something to remember, because you look at this roster, and I guarantee you Milwaukee took us lightly. And if we continue to have some success, teams won't. But let's just look at the schedule. Let's just look at the rest of the schedule. All right, the next 4 games are hard. At Memphis, then you have the All-Star break. Then coming out of the All-Star break, you play Golden State and Denver. And then you go on the road and play at Phoenix. So that's the next 4 games. So very, very tough. The next 4 games, it's going to be interesting to see how this team does if they can carry the momentum they've had from the past 3 games, right? But then after that, Minnesota twice, mediocre. Utah, that's a good team. But then Washington, mediocre. Atlanta, mediocre. New York, mediocre. Brooklyn's in shambles. Maybe they have it together by then with Ben Simmons. Who knows? Then this starts the easy stretch, Eric. Indiana, Detroit, San Antonio, Houston, Oklahoma City, New Orleans, CJ McCollum's return game, San Antonio, Oklahoma City, New Orleans. There's a legitimate shot that, which is crazy to me, but there's a legitimate shot that we do good enough to get maybe even 9th because the Lakers are a mess. But if not, I mean, if we make the play-in game, do you think Dame's going to sit out if he can play?
No. I think he would come back before that. If he's healthy.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying is like, that's not out of the... I think that is more likely than us getting a top 3 pick right now.
Yeah.
Depending on how these next 4 games go.
Well, I mean, the only good thing about it is us making the play-in almost guarantees that the Pelicans pick wouldn't be the playoffs. So,
or like we play in against the Pelicans.
A play-in against the Pelicans would be
and the
crazy.
Lakers miss the playoffs because we're only 2.5 games behind the Lakers right now for 9th.
So Pelicans, they would. If we win, well, we still have to win one more game before we kept. So we could keep the Pelicans from having a chance to make the playoffs and move their pick up, and then we could lose the next game still and keep our pick. It would then be like 13th or 12th or something. But
this would be easier if we just lost.
We'd still have 2 lottery picks, right? And we prevent them from going in. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
the worst case scenario is we win games, basically get like the 13th or 14th best lottery odds, right? Which would be, the worst. And then the Pelicans beat us in the play-in and then make the playoffs. We lose their pick, and then our pick is like 14th. That's probably the worst case scenario. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, because then we wouldn't have all our future picks.
Maybe we could trade that future Milwaukee pick to Chicago to get our pick back. I don't know if that's.
But they'd probably be looking at it like, you guys are going to make the playoffs next year if we're that close. You know what I mean? So, I mean, things just come. There's no clear long-term plan, and I don't think this Blazers front office really has one.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're going to go into the offseason and see what their options are, but that's where, if I felt like they had a long-term plan with like, okay, we're going to go out and get this guy, or if not, this is our backup plan, we're going to go get this guy. If I felt like their long-term plan was structured like that, I wouldn't be too worried, but I don't think they really know exactly what they want to do this offseason, and the better this team plays, the more I'm worried about them being complacent and not trying to be aggressive in terms of upgrading talent. I still think they will, but I feel like it's more questionable, where it's like, oh, well, we just needed players that fit Chauncey, and this team is good enough with Dame. But in reality, they need to be doing everything possible to go out and upgrade as much talent as possible that fits into Chauncey's system, that fits this team's identity.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, everything comes back to that for me. It would be easier with, like, the 2nd overall pick and the 12th overall pick. Because, shoot, if you don't want a rookie, you might be able to go out and trade that 2nd overall pick for somebody.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? For somebody legitimate. Maybe a Pascal Siakam becomes available. Because, I mean, Toronto, I could see wanting Chet next to Scotty Barnes and OG Anunoby. Chet, I think, would be perfect there. So maybe Siakam becomes available. That's the thing. And that's where it's like, I'm still rooting for this team. Let me word it this way. I still think it's better for this team long-term if they lose this year. I still think it's better long-term. That's the conclusion I've come to. It's just, I don't know. I mean, if they do better, then that shows that maybe they're not as far away, but then it's like, oh, well, imagine if they added a top 3 pick.
Yeah. Chris, we were talking about if we stayed at like 9 and 10 or 10 and 11, not if we moved up to the top 3.
Do you have Hail Blazers donation? Because it disappeared for me.
I think it was I do not have it either. I think it was a member's.
Oh, there was a member message and a Hail Blazers dono, but it disappeared for me on YouTube side of things. Do you remember who the member message was?
No idea. It was before
Shoot,
I came on.
Man. Why does YouTube like make them? YouTube needs like a feed. Well, it has a feed, but sometimes they'll disappear out of the feed. They need a permanent feed on my end where I can see everything. Because I don't remember. If anybody in chat remembers who it was and can let me know, that'd be cool. I know Hail Blazers had a dono. I'll read it off. Hail Blazers, just let me know what your dono message was. My bad, man. Carlton Pagano Jackson, $10 dono, said, so wild before the trade deadline, we weren't even thinking about the playoffs. Now we're playing well, and we think we got a chance. Chauncey is coaching up these young guys. Gotta love it. Thank you, Carlton, for the $10 dono. Hail Blazers said, with his $2 dono, thank you, Hail Blazers, for the $2 dono. He said, looking good, Eric. Happy Valentine's Day. Or V-Time Day. Whatever
Happy Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
See you.
Thank you, Hail Blazers. Yep. And whoever had that member message, just let me know in chat. I'll read it off. Sorry, it disappeared on my end. It's YouTube's fault. Don't blame me. Shouldn't have taken as long, but yeah. It gets like buried in chat, and I can't scroll up further for whatever reason. It's annoying. Maybe top chat? Nah, that doesn't work either. Anyway. You want to move into player cards?
Yeah, let's do it.
Cool. Player cards. Simons, 30 starts. He scored 31 points tonight, 6 assists, 12 for 24 from the field, 7 for 16 from 3. Had another slow start today, but picked it up a little bit earlier. Had a good second quarter. Was the leading scorer at halftime. Plus 26, Eric, in his 35 minutes. Phenomenal game from Ant today.
Yeah, and he got some great looks. Some of his misses were on wide open shots too. But you can't complain with 12 for 24 from the field, 7 to 16. Just didn't get to the line at all. That's maybe the only critique you could say. But yeah, another 6 assist game. Should have had a lot more. But yeah, I can't say enough good things about the way Ant's playing. And he's just completely... He has defenses just baffled on how to stop him right now.
Yep. So Simons has 30 start. This was his 30th start in his career. For this season, this doesn't count this game, but for this season, Eric, in his 24 starts, I'm curious, guess how many points per game and assists per game he's averaging? What do you think it is?
This season?
As a starter, when he starts.
So not just this year, like the whole season?
This season when he starts.
Okay. I want to say it's somewhere around 25 and 6.
It's 21. It's 21 and 6, but okay. I mean...
I must be thinking of just January then.
Yeah, because I don't know if he got starts before then, but January's hot.
Because we had the CJ and Norm injuries prior to... Or Norm missed a few games, and he came in and started.
Yeah, so let me see. In January, he averaged 23 points per game and 7 assists. In February, in 6 games before today, he's averaging 22.5 and 5 assists. His three-point ball has just... He was 43% in January and only 38%. I say only 38%. Only 38% in February. But, like, the numbers are very close, though, is my point. Yeah. His efficiency is slightly down, but he's also doesn't really have another go-to scorer next to him right now. And defenses have caught on to him. Defenses know him now. So defenses are game planning for him now. He's the number one guy being game planned for, and his numbers are still similar enough. Mm-hmm. Right? 22.5 and 5 assists. So he's had 3 good games in a row, because I think this team is moving the ball better and it's helping him get better shots where he's not just having to create everything on his own.
And so Dion Webb was asking what the things in the top left corner are. The top one is a rocket launcher because he has destroyed the tank, and he is destroying any tank that he sees. He's just destroying everything. Like
he's a rogue agent. Yeah.
No tank can stop this guy right now. And the thing below that is a record book or history book because he made history once again tonight by becoming the all-time NBA leader in three-pointers made in your first 30 starts in the NBA.
Oh, wow. Good for him. Good for him. Another great game from Simons. Let's move on to Josh Hart. Why is there algebra on the screen, Chris? I don't know. Josh Hart, 27.7 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 blocks, a steal that he turned into a fast break dunk. 10 for 16 from the field, 5 for 9 from 3. Eric, we talked about this guy as like the perfect third guard to trade CJ for. I mean, it's only 2 games, but I couldn't imagine him playing better his first 2 games in Portland. Now, I hope that his shooting stays this good.
It's not going to be this good, but yeah.
Because that's the thing with him is he's only a 33% 3-point shooter this year, 34.5% for his career. He's shot the ball really well in his 2 games in Portland. So, I mean, you love to see it. Hopefully it keeps up. I think he's just playing extremely well right now. What was he? Let me go to his game logs. What was he last game? What was he against the Knicks?
I don't remember his exact numbers.
He was 3 for 6. So in his 2 games in a Portland uniform, he is 8 for 15 from 3. 8 for 15 from 3. Which is phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
Does anybody know what this... No, I mean, there's no way to even deduce what that algebra problem means at all, because there's no equals. Anyway, going back to math class. I love Josh Hart, though. I mean, I love Josh Hart. I hope he continues to shoot the ball well. Don't expect that to keep up, but everything else he's doing is what he was... is who he is, you know? Everything else outside of his 3-point shooting is basically what he is as a player. He's a good defender. He makes the right play. He makes the right pass. He can attack the rim a little bit. He can finish. He's just a really well-rounded player.
Yeah, I love what he's doing defensively. That little 2-3 zone with him on top as one of the top 2 guys. He's like perfectly suited for that, and then Winslow is also doing a great job, and those guys can switch off to pretty much any other than, I mean, Hart maybe would struggle in the post, but like in the zone he's not going to have to guard the post. So those 2 guys, like being able to switch and guard like quicker guys or bigger guys, is just a huge plus in our system right now. And our defense has looked, I think, it should be even better after tonight, but the last 7 games heading into this, we had a top 10 defense in the NBA. So it's just looking really nice right now, and Hart's a good player, and I like how, man, he's very good at finishing around the rim, much like Norm was. But you get like other stuff with him too, everything but maybe the efficiency from the 3-point line, but yeah, I think he is the perfect complement to Dame and Ant. You can play some small forward. You don't really have to worry about him being undersized, and you can also use him with either of those guys as the backup guard. I think that we're in good shape moving forward, and that's why I definitely want to keep it.
Yep. Apparently the algebra comes out to "I love you." Good job, Krish. Good. That's clever, man. And I'm glad you found somebody worthwhile to stand for. Good job.
And yeah, on Valentine's Day, it's very fitting.
Yeah, that's the best. That's the best nameplate. That's my favorite nameplate of the year, Krish. Good job, my guy.
Well, anyway. We have a second Father7 Rev with a $2 donation with no message. If you did leave a message, it probably got held because you can't say certain things in the super chats. So just tag either Blazers Uprise or Eric Brandt in chat, and we'll read it off. And then thanks to Caleb Pendergraft for the $5 donation. Wish we were tanking a bit, but this has easily been the most fun I've had watching the Blazers all season.
Yep, no expectations. A team that plays hard, a team that plays the right way. It's a lot more fun than the start of the season, for sure. Anyway, let's move on to Yusuf Pure Shooter Nurkic. So 23 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists. Had some weird finishes around the rim in this game, Eric. Some stuff that was just like, Nurkic, what in the world are you doing? But he got to the free throw line and made his free throws and made both his threes. So 23 points and 16 field goals is an efficient night. Just, kind of backwards from how he's normally efficient.
It was 5 of 14 from 2.
Yeah, 5, but 2 for 2 from 3 and 7 for 8 from the free throw line. Yeah. I mean, I'll take it in a plus 28. I wanted to save this until his player card. If anybody was worried about Nurkic leaving, I don't think they should be worried anymore. Because I think he's really enjoying playing with this team the past couple of games. And if you saw him after the game, he looked to be pretty happy. He posted a Twitter video, or he retweeted it, I forget which one, of him and Justice Winslow walking off the court. Yeah, I mean, Nurkic has been for a while kind of the loudest complainer in terms of not liking the style in which this team is played, and now you're seeing this team play a better style of basketball, and I think Nurkic is enjoying that, and I think he's likely to come back. I'm not worried about him leaving next season because A, we're going to be able to offer him more money than any other team that doesn't have cap space, and then B, I think he's enjoying the style of play.
Yep. Man, Nurk made some weird shots. he had the he usually doesn't catch the ball so far out on his post ups, and he had that one weird step through runner from 15 feet that he made, and then a possession or two later he tried an 18-foot baseline turnaround. I don't know what was up with that, but finishing aside tonight, yeah, it was a great game. And he even said after the game, thanks to Hillblazers for putting this in chat earlier, he had a comment after the game that he thinks teams are definitely taking them lightly, and that's a mistake. So, yep.
Yeah. The other thing, I'll read off this dono because it goes with this. Emerson, 99. Eric, what's that currency?
I don't know. I asked Emerson in chat, but he didn't. Peso. Oh, it's pesos. Thank you. Peso.
Emerson, 99 peso dono. Thank you, Emerson. He says, wanted us to lose until Portis did what he did. So if you don't watch the game, Bobby Portis, late in the game, Nurkic went up for a shot, and Bobby Portis just grabbed his jersey and just yanked him down. Nurkic fell on his back. It was extremely freaking dirty. Extremely dirty. Milwaukee fans started chanting, Bobby, Bobby, because I guess they support crap like that. I mean, I wouldn't chant for any of our players if our players did anything like that. And, Nurkic was fine and surprisingly didn't really have a reaction to that.
Yeah.
Nurkic, of all people, I would expect to have a reaction to that. Mm-hmm. And he, whatever. I did have a problem that none of his teammates had a reaction to that, because if somebody does that to your teammate, you got to at least, in my opinion, get in their face about it.
I think maybe they, since it was from his backside, maybe they didn't see the pull down and that Nurkic always ends up on the floor and they called the foul right away. So maybe that's what happened. But yeah, and that Nurkic didn't react at all, then they didn't think anything of it. But so yeah, I would say that maybe was it. Maybe once they saw it on there, they wish they did, but I don't know. Yeah,
I mean, I don't know. It seemed like players saw what happened. I don't know. All I'm saying is, if I'm on a basketball court and somebody does that to one of my teammates, you're saying something, because it's not okay. You gotta stand up for your teammate, because that's a play that can seriously hurt somebody. That's not cool. That was a really freaking weak play from Bobby Portis.
Yes, it was.
Anyway, anything else on Nurk?
Just, he's been great on the boards lately, especially defensive rebounding. And it's we don't have a lot of size on this team right now, but he's been killing it. Yeah, and today he had 4 offensive rebounds. Mm-hmm. So good for him. This team got a lot of offensive boards. He got one late as well and got to the free throw line. Let's move on to... Real quick, I got to address something while it's happening in chat. Cool. So, well, first of all, Hyper Prime, no to Tyreek Evans. That guy's been out of the league for a few years, and he's got banned for drug use and stuff. Stay away from him. People see the name and just think, oh, should we go after him? No. We don't need Tyreek Evans, and we don't want him anywhere near this team. But Thousand Eye 85 says, weren't these guys iffy about that Hart trade at first? And then goes on to say, well, they weren't totally on board with that trade. So I can only speak for myself. It was literally a week or two into the season, I was saying Josh Hart would be a perfect player on this team. So I don't want to hear any of that crap, because this had nothing to do with Josh Hart. That was a good part of the trade. What I had a problem with was either not getting Trey Murphy instead of Nickeil Alexander-Walker, or not getting a little better draft capital out of it, in terms of the pick either turning into something just as good, possibly, if it didn't convey this year, or maybe we get a another pick out of it instead of the second rounders or something. So I felt like we didn't negotiate the trade properly. But in terms of getting Josh Hart back in the deal, I was always on board with that, and I've never said otherwise on the show. I don't know.
I said he was the perfect third guard for a while behind Damion and Ant. So I don't know. I loved him. I loved Herb Jones. Obviously, he was kind of off the table, which is smart on the Pelicans' end. I mean, it would have been dumb for them to have given him up, but I love Herb Jones. So, yeah, I mean, I graded it a C. It was just kind of like a return. Josh Hart, the perfect player to get back. I just thought if we negotiated things a little bit better, we could have gotten a little bit more value. And our GM admitted to maybe getting a little bit less value because he wanted to trade CJ to a place CJ wanted to go. So, CJ's value was a little bit higher than that. So that's why we were just kind of on the trade. It wasn't anything to do with Josh Hart. Big Josh Hart fans and have been for a while. So, anyway, Moving on. Justice has been served. 13 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, a block, 6 for 12 from the field. I missed the 1-3 he made. I saw the air ball he shot, and I saw the 2 bad. If he can just shoot, man. Yeah, he can't. But outside of that, everything else was very solid tonight.
Yep, just good all-around player other than the shooting, and he's doing a lot of the little things. He's just, man, I have so much confidence. He had that sweet block shot, man. Nawara tried to pack it on him, and he had a clean block. So I really like his energy out there, and he's just tough too. Like he's hard to get by. Like I said earlier, he can guard quicker guys. He can guard bigger guys, even though he's not super tall. So just like what he's doing out there, and he is probably, unfortunately, maybe not unfortunately, but like Chauncey's going to gravitate towards this guy, and as long as he's on the team, Chauncey is going to play him minutes. So I think he is playing really well, and I still don't necessarily think he should be like someone is thought of as a foundational or core piece moving forward, but the guy's playing his butt off, and he's been a revelation on defense.
Yeah, I mean, next season I want Josh Hart as our backup guard and Nasir Little as our backup 3, and I want us to go out and get like a starting caliber 3 and a starting caliber 4. That would be my goal. In case we fail in that plan, then Justice might have a consistent rotation spot.
Would you be okay with Nas and him as our backup 3-4?
If we could get a backup 5 that can shoot.
Mm-hmm.
If we can get a backup 5 that can shoot, that's fine. And rebound. But if he's going to be the backup 4, I always feel like you should try and have 4 shooters on the floor at all times, or 4 guys that can at least like knock down a shot semi-consistently. I don't think Nurkic is one of those guys. I don't think Justice Winslow is one of those guys. So like next year, if he has a role, I would try and, I'd want him off the bench. I wouldn't want him playing much with Nurkic. I mean, it's not to say that there aren't possessions where it can work, because obviously it's worked recently. It's just in the playoffs, you don't want to let defenses load up on guys and leave a guy like Justice Winslow wide open. I mean, people used to complain about that all the time with Maurice Harkless and Al-Farouq Aminu and how we couldn't do anything in the playoffs because of that. So I feel like some of those people might want Justice to start next year alongside Nurkic, even though it would be the same problem that they complained about 3 years ago, right? So if we can get a backup 5 that can shoot, I'm more okay with him being like our 9th man, with him being our backup 4. I would be a little bit more comfortable with him being like our 10th or 11th man, and just making sure we get players that fit the identity. Because that's the thing, he fits Chauncey's identity to the T. I just think we need to try and get players that fit Chauncey's identity to the T that are a little bit more talented than a Justice Winslow. And like outside of shooting, he's talented. The problem is like if you're going to be playing next to Damon and Ant, you got to be able to play off them. And if he can't knock down a 3, that's where I kind of question the fit a little bit. So
yeah, you just have to have a creative offense around it. So I don't mind if players can't shoot as long as they're not set up to be shooters, right? Mm-hmm. So as long as they use him either as kind of like a Draymond role where you facilitate the offense. You bring the ball up. You have Ant and Dame spacing the floor. I think you can do some things there. But like you said, if we have him, Hart, Nas, in like a second unit, it might be tougher to do that kind of stuff.
But here's my question. Okay, say you get a backup 5 that can shoot. Would you rather have Justice Winslow or Turner Watford as the backup 4?
I don't know. One person we never mentioned either is Ingles.
Ingles. If we resign Ingles, I don't know. I mean,
that's why it makes sense for Nas to start. You have Ingles and Winslow together with whatever that center. Yeah,
I don't want that. That's not a good enough starting lineup in my opinion. If Nas is starting.
I mean,
it depends on who the 4 is, but
Nas was averaging like 13 and 6 as a starter on 40% threes.
Yeah, but like who was? I mean, they were. How many games were they losing? And then
I know
who did they have on the court?
But Nas is going to get a lot better too, theoretically.
I mean, theoretically, maybe, but if he gets a lot better, you'll be able to see that off the bench. You know what I mean? And it's not like he can't play 25 minutes off the bench, right? I don't want to just settle for him being the starter in 3 next year. I want to try and get a better 3. If you can't, for whatever reason, get a better starter in 3, then okay, at least you tried. But I don't want to settle for him. That kind of goes back to my overall point where it's just like, oh, well, let's just bring Dame and Nas back into this and we're set. You got to try and get this lineup as talented as possible. I'd be a little bit more okay.
We still need a 4 in that situation.
I know. But that's where it goes back to I want Nas to be the back. I want their plan to be trying to get like a really solid 3 and 4 and then have Nas be the backup 3. And obviously if they can't find a better 3 than Nas, then Nas can start. But the problem I have, and it goes back to like the shooting, is Nas hasn't proven that he can be a consistently solid 3-point shooter. His career, he's 32%. This season, he was 33%. And if you have him with Nurkic out there, I just wonder if spacing becomes a little bit of an issue.
Yeah, like I said, we'll see if you can improve that or not.
Shout out Devin Ford, $2 dono. Says, thoughts on signing Myers Leonard 10-day backup center? We don't have room for a 10-day right now. We have 15 roster spots filled, so we couldn't do it right now.
Myers is out for the season. He had another surgery and isn't able to play. From everything he's posted on social media, he's had a lot of phone calls to play, but he is not able to this year. So
next year, I wouldn't want him to be in the rotation. Let's just say that. If they want to bring him back as a 14th, 15th guy, fine. I know he had that whole, Twitch stream slip up, but I honestly think he didn't know what it meant, and he's tried to do as much possible to kind of redeem himself. And a lot of it doesn't seem like he's trying to do it to redeem his image. Like he actually kind of, he apparently does a lot. I don't know the details of the situation, so I can't speak to it, but I think he's kind of, I don't know, forgivable for that.
To me, I mean, there's a lot of better centers out there. We should go from there. Yeah. Absolutely. You can feel however you want about what Myers said, but he's done a lot of good since then. And I mean, does he deserve a second chance? That's up to you. But other than that, yeah. Anyway, let's move on to CJ Pure Hooper Eligote. 10 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 for 7 from the field, 1 for 3 from 3, 3 for 4 from the free throw line. Got the goat horns for Ellaby. What'd you think of Ellaby today? He fell on the ball really, really hard. It was surprised he wasn't hurt from that. Man.
You froze, Eric. Is Eric lagging out? I think Eric lagged out. I don't know what happened to Eric. All right, well. Let me see if we can bring Eric back. I don't know. Eric, let me know what happened in chat. I don't know what happened with Eric. I don't have a solo webcam set up for this. Let me set one up, I guess, in case Eric can't come back. I don't know what happened to Eric. Anyway, okay, well, that's unfortunate. Yeah, 10 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists. I mean, he plays hard, and he kind of fits into the identity. He cuts, he makes the right pass. I mean, it's just going to come down to, can he be a 37% three-point shooter, and that's going to determine his career, in my opinion, because there's really nothing else that he does super well. Like, he does a lot of little things right, and he can pass a little bit. He has to be a guy that knocks down threes. His wife probably unplugged the Wi-Fi router. Eric was doing the stream from work, so it was his work Wi-Fi, I think. So anyway, yeah, that's what's going to determine Ellaby, in my opinion, for his career. But, you know, with the team that moves the ball, with the team that plays a little bit of a faster tempo, with the team that hustles, he fits in better than the team we saw to start the season. So, you know, I think he's been solid lately. It's just crazy that he's playing 35 minutes. He's just a guy that goes under the radar, really. I was really counting on Eric having a take on him because I don't really have anything to say about Elago, unfortunately. Let's move on to... If Eric calls back in, we can go back to Elago, I guess. But the Watford slide is... It's evolving. It's evolving. Trendon Wetford hit his first career 3 today. 1 for 1 from three-point line. 4 for 7 from the field. Finished well as well. Had 10 boards, 5 assists, 9 points. If he played 36 minutes, maybe he could have pushed for a triple-double. 2 turnovers, 3 personal fouls. Played really solid defensively, in my opinion. He should have gotten an assist for this, but I loved that one-handed pass he had to Simons in transition where he looked at the cutter, the defense went with the cutter, and he just kind of no-look flicked it back out with one hand to Simons for a wide-open 3. It was the best 3 Simons has maybe gotten all season, just one of the cleanest looks he's gotten this year. Unfortunately, didn't knock it down, but that was a great pass. Seeing Trendon make plays like that is, I don't know, it's encouraging. It's, if this team plays fast next year, I like him in the rotation because I think he can play out style. He's not the quickest player, but he makes the right decisions. He can handle the ball. He can grab and go. He can make, you know, a up-court outlet pass. He can pass the ball. He just kind of fits into a team that plays with some sort of pace. Let me call Eric again and see if this works. I don't know what happened to Eric, and he hasn't said anything in chat, so... Jarrell says he's a Draymond Green clone. I wouldn't necessarily go that far, but him knocking down the 3 today is nice. If he can knock down threes, it's kind of the same... There we go. Call's going through. It's kind of the same situation as Ellaby. I think he has more of a chance to stick in the league if he can't shoot the 3 ball at a super high clip, but it will only help him being able to do that. Guys will have to run him off the 3-point line. He'll be able to drive past guys easier because he's not a guy that's going to just bully his way into the paint if a defender's sagging on him. He's not a guy that's going to be able to just blaze by guys with his speed. This Skype ringtone is a challenge. I have the Skype ringtone just blaring in my ear and I'm trying to think. It's... Yeah, I don't know. The call was going through, Eric. Yeah, just call if it comes back, I guess. Yeah, I can't think and hear that ringtone at the same time. That was a challenge. That was a streamer challenge. Anyway, yeah, if he can knock down threes, it'll be easier to get by guys. He won't have to be as quick in getting by guys, and he doesn't really have the speed to easily get by guys. But he's shifty, and he can handle the ball, and he can, he had a pretty sick cross on Greg Monroe. Greg Monroe fouled him, so if he's able to knock down threes and guys have to close out hard, he's going to be a lot more effective as a guy attacking the seams, attacking closeouts, getting into the paint, drawing multiple defenders, and then making plays for other people. So the 3-point shot, I think, will open up his game long term. It was nice to see him hit his first 3. Hopefully he'll be able to build on that for the rest of the season. I want to see him taking more just to see if he can get comfortable shooting the ball. What percentage does he shoot? You know, because I don't know what he was. He was like 0 for... What was he before this? Let me look this up because I'm kind of curious what he was on the season before this. Before this, he was 0 for 10 from 3. That's what I thought. 0 for 10 from 3, so now he's 1 for 11. If he's able to get a little bit more confidence, a little bit more comfortable, it will be interesting to see if he can be like a 30 to 33% three-point shooter. Because he was 33% in college, if I recall correctly, at LSU his sophomore season. So hopefully he's able to knock down the three-point shot. Anyway, let's move on to... Ben thinks he's Dame McLemore. 5 points in 20 minutes, 1 for 7 from the field, 1 for 5 from 3, struggled shooting the ball, but had 2 assists, had 2 steals, 3 personal fouls, minus 13. So the Blazers end up winning by 15. They outscored the Bucks in the 28 minutes that Ben McLemore wasn't on the court. They outscored the Bucks by 28. Minus 13 in 20 minutes. Not a good statistical game from Ben, but this team needs a knockdown shooter. He still kind of fits in that role. His shooting has somewhat fallen off as of late. He was up above 40%. Now, before this game, he was down to 37.7%, and this shooting night is not going to help him in that regard. So I'm souring a little bit more on Ben McLemore. I think they should have tried to flip him for any second-round pick at the trade deadline. Maybe that wasn't possible, though. It doesn't really fit this team going forward, in my opinion, because we're going to have our three-guard lineup next year with Dame, Ant, Hart, Nas at the 3. Maybe we can bring in another 3, hopefully. If not, maybe we resign Joe Ingles. I don't see where Ben McLemore fits in long-term. Tonight he struggled. Even if he shot the ball well tonight, it wouldn't change my opinion on that. So I don't think McLemore comes back next year. That's just my gut feeling on that. I could be wrong, but guys like this for the Blazers have usually just kind of spent a year here and then gone somewhere else. I mean, just look at Harry Giles, look at Mario Zonia, look at pretty much any one-year contract minimum guy that the Blazers have brought in the past. Let's move on and talk about Greg Block the third. He had 2 big-time blocks today, showcasing his athleticism on the defensive end, not just on a dunk. But he did get an alley-oop dunk in this game, 1 for 3 from the field. Had 5 boards in 14 minutes, was a minus 13, so the bench unit did not play too well. But that is to be expected, given who's coming off the bench. And when Ben McLemore doesn't shoot the ball, it doesn't really help the bench play better. So I like his energy. And it finally seems like he's a little bit more comfortable, where he's slowing down a little bit, not forcing things too much, he's not making reads or anything, but early on, or when he started legitimately playing minutes that wasn't garbage time, it just seemed like things were moving so fast for him that it was a blur. Now I think he's at the point where things are still moving too fast for him, but he can kind of recognize what's happening on the court a little bit offensively. So, it'll be interesting to see how he looks like at the end of the season. I don't really have much else to say about Greg Brown. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Obviously, Eric's not here to bounce things off of, but he's a fun player, of course. It's just nice to see him look less nervous, because he looked really nervous when he started playing this season. Anyway, I guess let's move on to... I think that's probably the last player card. No, Elisha Hughes played today. 5 points, 1 rebound. If anybody can read that text up there in the top left corner, let me know, because it is too small for me. 2 for 6 from the field, 1 for 5 from 3. Hit a nice pull-up mid-range jump shot. Just hasn't been too efficient in his first 2 games for the Blazers. Only played 11 minutes. I would like to give him a little bit more time. Maybe give him some of Ben McLemore's minutes. He's not as good of a shooter as McLemore, but I think he can be a little bit better just as an overall player, as a defensive guy. He's not a good defender, but McLemore's a bad defender. So just as long as he can be adequate defensively, knock down some threes, maybe he takes the role that the Blazers envision for Ben McLemore entering the season, where he doesn't play, but in a pinch he can step in and maybe knock down a shot. So yeah, Sven said should have kept which is Nickeil Alexander-Walker, is what it is. Nickeil Alexander-Walker is a 31% three-point shooter, 38% from the field, doesn't play good defense. I did not understand why people were excited about Nickeil Alexander-Walker. He declined this year. I know he's still young, but I don't really see... What does Nickeil Alexander-Walker do well at the NBA level? Is there one thing that he does well at the NBA level? Because I can't find one thing he does well. He's, for his career, 33% three-point shooter. Supposedly he's a scorer, but he's super inefficient. For his career, 39% from the field, 33% from three. And those numbers are worse this year, so it's not just a situation where he had a bad rookie or a bad first couple years and is improving. He's having maybe his worst season this year in terms of efficiency. True shooting percentage, 47%. For a guy that is below average defensively, to be that inefficient, I didn't understand why people wanted to kill Alexander Walker. So no matter how Elijah Hughes plays, it'll never be, oh, they should have just kept Nickeil Alexander-Walker. That's my opinion. Thousand Eyes 85 says, don't love high volume, low efficient shooters. I agree, especially if they bring nothing else to the table. If they can play make a little bit, okay, it's a little bit better. Because at least their aggressiveness is getting other players some buckets or good shots. If they can defend, okay, that's fine. They're making it up for it on the defensive end. If they don't create for others too much, which I know Nickeil Alexander-Walker almost gets 3 assists per game, but he's playing 26 minutes per game. And then if they're not good defensively, I can't stand high-volume, inefficient shooters. So that's my opinion on Nickeil Alexander-Walker. I am fine with that trade they made of him. They got a second-round pick out of it. I know it's a very late second, but they got a second-round pick out of it, and they got Joe Ingles, who maybe could fit on this team next year. If not, I don't think the Blazers missed out on anything. Anyway, would like to see Elijah Hughes get a few more minutes to see if he can get comfortable and have a good game or two with this team moving forward. Anyway, that wraps up the player cards. Let me get my webcam up here because Eric is still lagging out. I will start a Twitter space and I will take a couple calls. We don't have time for much. I wanted to keep the stream a little bit shorter today. So I will start a Twitter space. Maybe we'll take 3 callers, 3 or 4 callers, and hear what you guys have to say. Once again, as I said on last stream, I'm more likely to accept a call from somebody I know than somebody completely random if there's multiple people trying to call in. Don't be offended if I, don't accept your call. Anyway, I gotta set this up. Zach, just feel free to join it on the Blazers Uprise Twitter account as well. And I gotta type this through. So let me mute. Unless you guys want to hear the typing. I don't know. I'm gonna mute. Okay, space is started. Feel free to join. I will post the link in chat. You have to be on your mobile phone in order to call in to the space. There's the link. Let me post the link for mod chat. Cool. All right, yeah, so just hop in, request to talk. You guys should know the deal. Anyway, yeah, we'll wait on our first caller. Eric is still not currently here. I don't know if he permanently lagged out or what. Unfortunately, he wasn't here at the start of the stream and isn't here now. Superfluous Aeromancer? That's quite a word. Good vocabulary. There's obviously not as much to talk about without trades. Eric says an internet outage in his entire area. Well, I assume that means you're not coming back on the stream, Eric, because I am going to keep this a little bit shorter. So goodbye to Eric for the night, I assume. We'll bring on John Mitzak up first. What's going on, John? Did adding you not work? Are you there?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, what's up, man?
Hey, this team has been really fun to watch these past few games. And it's like conflicting because I still want a good pick, but you guys mentioning there's a chance that this team wins a bunch more games, and I don't know, possibly Dame gets healthy like late in the season, and we're like still close to the play-in. I don't know. I'm conflicted.
Yeah, I think a lot of fans are currently conflicted, and I don't know. I'm just wondering what we're going to be saying in May when the draft lottery is on. I feel like it's a situation where fans might look back and say, man, I really wish we didn't win so many games after the trade deadline. So I'll be honest, I'm rooting for them to lose some games because I really want a top 3 pick. I think that's the best thing for this franchise going into next year and, of course, long term. But, I mean, it's also enjoyable to see the players playing well and see this team looking like an actual basketball team. So I agree. It is a little bit conflicting, but I think you can root for this team to look good and also root for them to lose at the same time.
Yeah. And, for me, especially, because I'm being honest, I actually haven't been to a Blazers game live, and I was planning to because I really want to see Dame play, but once he got injured, I was kind of bummed. But I don't know.
I mean, the one game I'm going to, I think probably the only game I'm going to the rest of the year is going to be the CJ return game. I really want to make it out to that game. So if there's a game to make it to, I think that's March 30th when CJ returns with the Pelicans. I think that would probably be the game.
Yeah, for sure. That game would probably be really good.
Yep. Anything else you got?
No, that's about it.
Thanks, man. Thanks for calling in. Sorry there's no Eric.
Thanks.
All right, so, Zach, feel free to, if you want to talk and hang out. I don't have any Eric here. Feel free to call into the space. I posted the link in the YouTube chat. I'll post it again for anybody who wants to call in to wrap up this show. I just want to give you guys the opportunity. Roy says, where is Eric? Apparently there's an internet outage in his area, so I started off the stream solo, and apparently I'm going to end the stream solo, unfortunately. Trade Lillard ASAP. No thank you. Okay, I'll go to... I don't know who was first. I'll go to David first, and then I'll go to you, Zach. We got David Lester. What's going on, man? Gotta hit that unmute button. It automatically mutes you at first. There you go. What's up?
Hey, how's it going, Tori?
It's going good, man. Eric disappeared, unfortunately, but other than that, I'm having an enjoyable night. How you doing, man?
Yeah, he's slippery like that.
Yeah, very slippery.
Yeah, I'm doing well. Just calling in first time.
Is this your first time calling in?
Yeah, I've tweeted with you, but added. But
I was gonna say we had a couple other Davids. Well, welcome to the Twitter
nobody
space.
else is talking. I'll step up.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah. So well, I'm on the bandwagon for. This has been a bummer of a season, but it's great to see him finally playing Chauncey's style. That's what I'm really thrilled about.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like fans have been waiting for them to play like this for a while because we haven't. I can't remember the last time this Blazers team looked like this for even a couple of games. This is fun.
Yeah, exactly. It is a fun team.
Hello, did you lag out?
I might have legged out. You got me?
Nah, I got you. What's up?
Yeah. I was saying it makes the season even more disappointing in a way, just seeing what they are able to do now, but hope for the future.
Yeah. So are you rooting for this team to lose right now? What's your... I'm curious how many fans are still on board the tank train and how many fans are like, you know what, I enjoy this team winning basketball. Which way do you lean right now?
I won't. I've never rooted for them to lose. It's one of those. It's kind of a weird season. I'm fine with them losing because I know there's value in it, but I think there's also value in this team enjoying each other, winning, getting behind Chauncey's style, and hopefully these wins we can point to when people are looking, free agents are looking for a place and saying, "Add you, Dame's back. Look what the magic we might be able to create."
Yeah. I mean, the cap space for agency route is just, I think it's harder than just going the trade route. So that is a good point. If we are truly trying to go for free agents, being able to pitch them up on some late season success maybe makes it more likely to land them. It's just, it makes it easier for me to root to lose because this free agency class isn't as good. And the top 3 in this draft has 3 players that I think are perfect for Portland, or close to perfect for Portland. So that's why it makes it easier for me to root to lose. This is the first time I've ever rooted for the team to lose, though, so it is weird. I've fallen in love with the top 3 of this draft, so I'm kind of just envisioning certain guys. You know, Chris has made jersey edits with draft picks in Blazer uniforms, and it gets to me, so that's what I'm rooting for. Eric, I mean, we got Eric back. What's up, Eric? Back from the dead, revived.
Hi, David. How are you?
I'm doing well, Eric. Good to hear your voice.
Good to talk to you. One thing I'm excited for in terms of free agency is not only what you mentioned is, like, you know, having a positive season ending to the season to build off upon, and like convincing that guy to be a missing piece, but to have Chauncey Billups as that guy, alongside probably Dame in a meeting trying to convince them, because I feel like if you get Chauncey in a room with someone, there's not many people that come away without just thinking how charismatic and how likable he is in person. So I think that's going to be a huge advantage for us in free agency. Now, like Tori said, the free agency class isn't that great, so who knows if that's going to help or not this offseason in particular. Right. But we've heard in the past that, I mean, Stotts has been in meetings with free agents, but when it comes to the draft and things like that, he's said, like, oh, he doesn't really have too much to do with the process of that kind of stuff. Whereas I feel like Chauncey's going to be super involved with every player that they target in free agency in the draft, and whether he likes that guy or not might influence whether we take someone or target someone in free agency. And then, just get that guy in a room with Chauncey. It would be my goal if I'm Cronin, if you want a free agent really bad, because I think that guy could convince pretty much anyone to do anything at an NBA level.
Yeah, maybe we're in a position, you know, like the Lakers were this offseason, where like people like Malik Monk were willing to take the minimum to go and try to chase a championship, or at least play. Maybe at least it's, hey, I want to play with Chauncey, I want to play with Dame. I like their energy and the possibility. But yeah, if we build on this.
I don't know about that level, but yeah, you still probably have to overpay slightly, but if we have cap room and, you know, full mid-level exception, stuff like that, you know, depending on what avenue we go, I like the options of being able to pay someone this summer versus like last summer only being able to offer a little under $6 million to any free agent who wanted to come here, and potentially getting a Kelly Oubre, but a team coming over the top and offering twice as much, and then we're screwed.
See, like, I also think that it might help in free agency to lose if we got a top 3 pick, and you could say, look, we got Paulo Banchero and we got Dame and we got Simons. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like you could use whoever you draft with a top 3 pick to recruit people as well.
Yeah. Well, I'm just trusting our no matter how many lottery balls we have, you know, that we're going to get like when we got up to get Odin, you know, years back. So maybe we'll have that kind of luck and positivity coming out.
Did you just say luck and Odin in the same sentence?
Well, yeah, you can interpret that luck in multiple forms.
Yeah. I'm just kidding.
That is one thing, David. I mean, we could have the best of both worlds if we're lucky, and that's win as many games as possible, but, you know, still get lucky in the lottery and move up. So that would be awesome if we somehow have a really fun rest of the season and make a run towards possibly in the play-in and then still move up into the top 3. That would be awesome. But it's harder to do that the less or the further down you are in the standing.
Right. I feel like we may have to be at a point at the end of the season where we have to keep New Orleans out of the playoffs and push them down, like, and then to guarantee their pick and then roll the dice with ours. Like maybe we're at the 10-11 like we are now, and we have to win to keep the 10th, and then we can lose in the play-in and still get some lottery luck in one or both of those picks.
Well, it's kind of interesting though, because unless you think New Orleans is going to say it's the Lakers and the Clippers they play or something, like unless you think they're going to win possibly both of those games, it might be better for them to pass us, because then it would be a greater % chance we'd keep the pick, whereas if we stay ahead of them, they'd have more odds to move up and we'd lose the pick, if that makes sense.
Yeah, sure, it makes sense.
So yeah, it's going to be very interesting as the season plays out, like the dynamic of what to do or what gives us the best odds to do what, or I mean, there literally could become games later in the season where it's a difference in like 5% or more whether we win or lose a game in lottery odds, or whether we keep a pick or not, and that's going to be crazy to watch.
Yeah, it's almost like they set up those pick odds just to keep this more interesting for the whole team.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, I appreciate the chat.
All right, you have a good one, David. Good to talk to you.
Too. Take care.
See you. All right. Sorry, I didn't realize I was muted. See ya, David. Thank you for calling in, man. Let's go to Zach. We got Zach on the Blazers Uprise Twitter account. What's going on, Zach?
Hello?
What's up?
Hi, Zachary.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Doing good.
Good. How are you?
Not too bad. I hope everyone's having a good Valentine's Day.
You too, man.
So I just kind of got on here because Tori didn't have any callers at the time. But yeah, man. I'll just give my thoughts on the team right now. You know, like I was like one of the first people who like really was pushing for the tank. Like I started like the whole tank season thing like 20 games into the season, and like, you know, the Blazers were then like, you know, you'd want them to start losing and then they'd go on a winning streak, and then, you know, you'd want them to win and then they'd, you know, let you down and like lose to like a terrible team. And it was
basically they were doing the opposite of what Zach wanted.
Literally, it was like 99% of the time, not even an exaggeration. It was ridiculous, you know. It was like, man. So at this point, man, I'm just happy to see the team play such a good style of basketball and watch them, like just watch the young guys dominate. Like it's just been so fun that, although I see the value in like a top 3 pick, and I really, really want one. Like I want one more than anything. It's just so fun to watch right now. I can't root against them, you know. Like I want them to lose for the future, but at the same time, it's just like just fun to watch, you know.
Yep. Can't disagree with that.
Yeah, for sure. And then I guess I did have one question. Like, how do you guys see Dame fitting in with this team next season? Like, do you think he can actually play this style of basketball we're playing now?
I don't see why he couldn't. And here's the thing, is like, it's not a situation where Dame has to be a good defender. You just have to have a good enough defensive team that plays with energy around him. So it's more so like this team is playing a really good style of ball. When you get Dame in there, it might not be as good defensively. It might be a little bit worse, but offensively it's going to be a lot better. So basically it's a situation where just as long as we're not like a bottom 10 defense, especially a bottom 5 defense, then I think this team has a chance. If it's in around a league average defense and Dame and Simons and whoever else they have can get this offense back to being a top 5 offense, especially if they're moving the ball and making things easier on Dame and Anfernee, then you're talking about maybe having a chance to make a run in the playoffs. So I think he can fit in. I'm curious to see if he's, you know, finally fully healthy for the first time in years, if he's able to be a good defensive player or at least maybe slightly above average. And I think maybe making it a little bit easier on him offensively by moving the ball better, moving players better, might save him some energy for the defensive end. So I'm optimistic with him fitting into what we're doing right now. Eric, what's your thoughts?
Well, 2 things stand out for me. One is with Anfernee Simons playing the way he does or is, and you expect that to be even better moving forward as he grows, considering he's the same age Dame was when he came into the league right now. But as Ant can handle more and more responsibility, and he's showing that he can do that, that takes a huge burden off of Dame on offense. We know the last few years he's had to absolutely carry this offense, and it's been at the expense of having energy and all that on the defensive end. So if you can limit how much he has to carry on offense, play him off ball a little bit, get him good shots without having to break down a defense through pick and roll constantly or breaking a guy down off the dribble, that's a huge advantage to his energy levels. And then you combine that with hopefully him being healthier, because honestly, the time frame of him starting to struggle with his ab issues lines up with when this defense started going from like top 10 defense to 16th to then, 27th, 29th, whatever. So it kind of lines up the last few years with Dame also being able to not move as well. So I think when you combine those two things, him being healthy and him not having to burden as much on offense, I think he will be a much more closer to neutral defender, and I think that'll be fine. And I think, like Tori said, having the guys around him that play better defense will also help that. So I just don't think he'll be a problem on that end. I think he'll fit in fine. Like I joked around about earlier in the stream, I think he's not going to be the type that's going to be watching a team play with success a certain way and then want to come in and ruin that or change it or have the team accommodate back to him. He's going to want to play this way with them, and I think it'll be fun for him for the first time in a while. And so I'm looking forward to it, and I'm not worried about Dame one bit.
Yep. We'll take Zach's Twitter app crashed. Thank you for calling in, Zach. Good to talk to you, man. We'll take 3 more callers. We'll go Dro, Tyler, Krish is going to be our final caller for the first time. Krish is actually going to call in. All right. Dro, what's going on, man?
Hello.
What's up, Dro?
What's up, guys? How are you doing tonight?
Doing all right.
How are you
doing?
Good. So I got a question for you guys. Did you guys see that Aaron Fentress compared Greg Brown to a young Scottie Pippen with his length and athleticism?
Did he?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's not a good comparison in my opinion.
Hell no.
Do you think that's a good comparison, Eric?
No, I mean, I would love if Greg Brown turned into the next Scottie Pippen, sure, but yeah, that's not a good comparison at all.
Yeah, I'm trying to see where he thought of that. Like, what?
I mean, you could say that about anyone that's that sized with athleticism, but Pippen could put the ball on the floor. He was like super high basketball IQ too, so I don't know. Greg could get there. I'm not saying that it's impossible. I just have a hard time seeing that comparison, just because he's long and athletic.
Yeah, and they both had like completely different paths too, like basketball paths. Like Greg Brown was like, you could call him like a privileged basketball player because he's a 5-star athlete. Scottie Pippen like got it out the mud, So I don't really know where he got that.
Goes
from.
to Texas. Pippen goes to a small school. Has to
NAIA,
improve the game a ton,
Yeah.
Yep.
And I got another question for you guys.
All right, what you got?
So what other star other than Giannis and LeBron would be a perfect fit next to Dame? And do you guys think Dame is out there recruiting somebody?
I mean, the most obvious answer would be Kevin Durant, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Other than like half the league.
Other than half the superstars. I mean, Jason Tatum would be great. He's not gettable. If you're talking gettable stars, Siakam maybe. But Siakam, I don't know if he's gettable or not. Jaylen Brown, maybe, but I don't know if how much Jaylen Brown would buy into Chauncey's system and the identity that this team needs. Eric, do you have any other maybe gettable names?
Well, definitely none of the guards. We're talking forwards. I don't know if this is a good fit with how he's played, but if the Lakers had a fire sale and Anthony Davis became available, I'm just saying he'd be.
You don't want Anthony Davis?
him and Dame would be a good fit. I was just trying to think of something that could actually happen, maybe. But yeah, I mean, I like Siakam a lot. I don't know if he's going to become available with how well he's playing. He's not really a star, but I think OG would be a perfect fit on this team. Even with some of his struggles this year, I think that's just kind of a one-year outlier. And then in terms of stars, it's like, I don't know. I think the top 3 in this draft would all be perfect with Dame and all have a chance to become stars. So I like all 3 of those guys. So maybe not the answer you're expecting, but like I'd like to find the next Tatum or the next Durant, and go about it that way versus necessarily trying to get one of those guys.
Yeah, it'd be interesting if one of them came over to Portland, because I mean I don't see it really happening, but it'd be cool to see like Jason Tatum or somebody like that come up here. So yeah, thank you guys, I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Have a good one, Joe.
Thank you. You as well. Thank you. Bye.
Peace. All right. Somebody asked why either of us don't want Grant. Wouldn't fit Chauncey's identity. Wants to be the number 1 option on a bad team. Kind of an ISO-heavy player now. Overrated defensively. Kind of loses focus off ball. I don't think he'd be good for the identity of this team. I feel like he'd be more along the Norm Rocco type of player in regards to his approach to the game and his approach to defense. I don't know if that's a good way to explain it, Eric.
Yeah, basically, people. I don't really know how to explain this, but there's certain players that, because they like get in someone's face like in a playoff game or like slap the floor on defense or something like that, like a Colin Sexton beats his chest in his first summer league game and everyone's like, oh, this guy's an amazing defender, right? Even then he gets to the NBA and he's like a horrible defender. And I think somehow along the way Grant got this reputation that he's an excellent defender, and the stats and everything just simply show that that's not true. He's not. And I know you can't trust defensive stats completely, and that's not what I'm saying, but the guy isn't like a lockdown defender like people think he is. And then you combine that with, wanting a bigger role and not being super efficient in that role. He's never really been a good rebounder. He's never really been a good passer. So when you combine all that stuff, I do like kind of his evolution his first year in Detroit. So yeah, maybe a 1-year outlier again this year, but overall I just think he's overrated in terms of defense. And then if you do think he's a good defender, then you can't believe why other people wouldn't want him. But in reality, I just don't think he's as good of a defender as people think. And a lot of his scoring on that Denver team was like high volume, low efficiency, because he took a lot of shots in the playoffs.
On Detroit?
No. His playoff run in Denver.
Oh,
he had
low volume, high.
No, there was a couple games where he scored like, I forgot what it was, like 27 points or something.
Yeah.
And then people are like, oh, he's so amazing, but he took like 25 shots in that game. Like,
okay.
You know what I mean? That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah, got you. That's
but yeah, it's committed in Detroit, but he was pretty good last year. I just don't think, I just don't like his. I mean, I want someone who's good at multiple things, like be a good defender or a lockdown defender. I don't think he's not a good rebounder, so that doesn't help us there. He's not a good passer, so that doesn't help when you have super good athletic wings. He's not much of a cutter. He can maybe get back to being a good 3-point shooter for a 4, but I don't know. I wouldn't give up what you have to give up to get that. You can get that from a much lesser player, right?
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's move on to Tyler. You're now up on the Blazers Uprise post-game show. What you got, man? You're muted. You just got to unmute that mic. Hello?
Tyler.
Yeah, that red mic icon is...
Oh my gosh, sorry.
There you go. It's all good.
Bro,
Man.
I'm trying to make a trade for Scotty Barnes in 2K right now, bro. I'm trying. Yeah, sorry.
Does 2K even regret or reject that trade?
Bro, okay. I know I gotta ask a question, but I they beat the Lakers the other night, so I tried. Well, not the Lakers. It was the team. It was the first game after the trade deadline, so I got
Knicks.
excited. The Knicks. So I hopped in the start today on 2K, and I won the draft lotto after tanking and benching Dame, and I got Chet. So I'm trying to flip him for Scotty and bring him back Gary Trent. So it's not working. But anyways, my question is,
Tori would say, keep Chet. Yeah.
Keep Chet. Don't try Chet, bro.
I had your answer for you.
Yeah. You know me. I mean, Scotty Barnes would be fun. Scotty Barnes would be a great addition to this team too. I'd take Scotty Barnes. Like if we got the 4th overall pick and they weren't set on Barnes for whatever reason, and they wanted Jaden Ivey or something, I would obviously do that. I don't think that's realistic though. But Scotty Barnes would be fun on this team. Anyway, what you got?
So my question is non-Blazers related, but it's kind of a two-parter. One, where do you realistically see the Lakers planning out this year if they get in the play-in? Because obviously LeBron turns up in the playoffs, like when he wakes up or whatever he wants to tweet out. And what do you see in the future with Westbrook? Because you guys probably know this, but I know his contract. So I think it's over $40 million next year, and it's a player op, which he's going to take. Do you guys think he's going to have to stay in LA next year because of his contract, or do you think that there's a team out there that's reasonable, that's a reasonable suitor for him?
I don't think there's any team that's going to value Westbrook as an asset. It just hasn't worked out in too many destinations that I think at this point. Like, the only team that would value him is a team trying to win, and he doesn't help you win. He can put up nice stats and have good games and whatnot, but on a large scale, he's not somebody that helps you consistently win basketball games just because he's a weird fit next to better players. So I don't think it's going to be a situation where they can easily offload him. Maybe they'll give him to a team and take back, just a couple crappy expiring contracts. But outside of that, I don't see them getting value back for him. So I would bet on him being there next year if I had to. Do you agree with that, Eric?
Yeah, unless they change their stance and are willing to attach a first for like a John Wall, I just don't see how another team would want that. And I guess he could go back to Washington after this season, but there's not a lot of dumb teams that would take that. And maybe Dallas is looking pretty stupid. Maybe they would do something dumb.
Dinwiddie plus Bertans.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, to me, that's a situation where he accepts his option and they're kind of stuck with him unless they're willing to attach assets, and I just don't think that's the smartest play either. I think they might just have to eat that contract for a year and try to make it work, but the problem is they probably lose LeBron after that season too if they're not careful. So it's definitely a delicate situation and why they shouldn't have traded for him in the first place.
Yep. As far as where the Lakers finish, I think it's 8th or 9th. The two LA teams I think will be 8th or 9th. I don't know which order. They are a game and a half separated right now. I think the Lakers, if they're 9th, I think they'll win that playing game. I don't think the Pelicans or this Blazers team or the Spurs or the Kings or whoever beats the Lakers in a 9-10 playing game. When it comes to a 7-8 playing game, I would take the Lakers against the Clippers. Against the Timberwolves, I feel like it could be tough for them. So I think it's about a 50-50 chance they end up in the first round of the playoffs. And I think for sure they end up 8th or 9th at the end of the season. Do you agree, Eric?
Yeah. They're definitely better than all of the teams that are fighting for tank position right now / 10th play-in spot. So I agree with that. Yeah.
Yep.
Their talent's super great. They just don't click. But in regards to the person before me, no Anthony Davis, please. The guy is a walking.
I was just trying to find someone who we hadn't really talked about. Yeah.
That was Eric's idea. Blame Eric, not the guy before.
Yeah. Last but not least, do we think LeBron is leaving to play with Bronny when he gets in the league?
I don't think Bronny would make the league if he wasn't LeBron's son. So that's kind of my hot take. I don't think I don't know. I just don't think. I think Bronny would be a D1 player for sure. I just don't think he's an NBA caliber prospect. but I feel like a team is going to draft him because they want LeBron, and I do think LeBron would go to whatever team drafted Bronny to play with him. So if that's the case, it's going to be interesting to see how much Bronny's draft stock gets artificially inflated due to potentially getting LeBron. What do you think, Eric?
If LeBron is a free agent that same summer, he's going to go possibly late lottery, mid-teens. I'm not joking. That's not a joke. Yeah. I think he'll go like somewhere between like 13 and 20 just because there's going to be a team. Like, let's say the Blazers this year had the both picks convey, but one of them's like 7 and one of them's 13. Why wouldn't we take Bronny with the 13th pick if that guaranteed that Bron was coming here too for this team, right? So I think there's going to be at least one team in that situation that just wants Bron so bad that they're willing to risk him, whether he'll sign there or not.
Yeah, that makes sense. Do we think CJ should take a 10-day and retire a Blazer?
I mean, he could be back in a bench role maybe, 5-6 years from now. I wouldn't bet against that. I would like to see CJ end his career with the Blazers, but that's so far down the road. Same. It's hard to even speculate,
Yeah, I was at work and I read his article, and that was a tough read. I was like, dude, that hurts. Like, I do like that he definitely gave Portland, and recently with what happened with Gary Trent's dad, and Norman kind of giving Portland kind of a bad rep as a franchise right now. Gary Trent's dad saying he was miserable playing here, and it was nice to have CJ come out and say that, like, he could have never imagined it go better. Because I feel like, I don't know, we've been catching a lot of shade on social media, so that was nice. But anyways, I know there's someone else after me, so I'll let you guys go. But thank you guys, and have a good night.
Thanks, Tyler. You have a good one, too.
Yep. Thanks for calling in, man. All right, so the last Persian, I can't talk.
Persian.
Krish is not Persian, but Krish is our last caller. All right, Krish, your chance to shine. You do all the graphics and stuff that are on stream, but now you're a speaker. What you got?
All right.
What's up, Krish?
This is what Krish sounds like, everybody.
Yeah. Okay.
What you got, bro?
All right, so I'm sort of on the tank kick, the draft, right?
Oh,
and,
yeah.
We've talked about having a top 3 pick, but just evaluating our situation as a team, I don't think we're going to be there. I think it's probably going to be more in the 5 to 10 range if we tank. So, and I know Eric has talked about Tari Eason and that, but I'm just wondering what other guys you're looking at for possible picks in that range, and where would you stop thinking about taking the best player available, like whatever, if it's a Jaden Ivey kind of player, and you start looking at the fit and just sort of maybe leaning towards selecting a forward?
Ooh, that's a great question. Dang, Chris. All right. I don't know when that starts. Like, I think it's a situation where there's no clear-cut line where you start considering fit more. It's just like, okay, if these players are really close, that kind of becomes a factor. But if one player is clearly better than everybody else available, you just draft them anyway, even if that is late lotto. Is there like a cutoff there for you, Eric, when evaluating prospects, especially for the Blazers, in which you just say, you know what, let's take the better fit instead of the better player?
The only time I ever consider fit is if it's somewhat in the same ballpark between two prospects and I'm trying to decide between the two. Then I take the position that fits my team better. But other than that, every other time I am taking whatever I think is going to be the best NBA player regardless of what position they play. So that doesn't change for me whether I'm first or picking 60th. I am going to pick whatever player is potentially the best NBA player and then work, figure things out from there.
Yep. As far as players in the 5 to 10 range, I think AJ Griffin, it's going to be interesting to see what his standing reach is, because I feel like he might be undersized for the 3. He has extremely low shoulders. I don't know what his standing reach is going to be. It's a situation where... I mean, he could. Dude, I wouldn't be shocked if he has like an 8'4" standing reach, man. And I think I said this earlier today. We need a forward with some size, So that could be Keegan Murray. I have to watch more of him because he's very solid, but I'm kind of unsure as how his game translates from college to the NBA. He's not the most athletic guy, so I just need to watch him more and kind of get a better feel for his game. And then Benedict Mathurin is kind of the other guy who plays for Arizona. Keegan Murray plays for Iowa, by the way. Benedict Mathurin plays for Arizona. He's a 6'6", 6'7", shooting guard, small forward type of guy who can shoot the ball, decent athlete, could end up being a good defender as well. So those are kind of the 2 or 3 guys in that range with Griffin, Murray, and Mathurin. Is there anyone else for you, Eric?
No, definitely those 3. And I think with all 3, it's going to be super important what their combine measurement are, because Mathurin, if he measures a little bigger, like if he's a true 6'6" with a decent wingspan, he can maybe play small forward. I think he's going to move up a little higher than if he measures like 6'4" with a like 6'8" wingspan or something. So that's going to be crucial to see what players move up a few spots, what players move down in that area. But I like all 3 of the players Tori mentioned. I'd probably, if we're closer to 10, I'd start considering Jalen Duren too. I think he's got all the tools to become a good player, and then once again you put him with a guy like Chauncey who can maybe develop young guys, and I think the sky would be the limit there. But yeah, if we get like 9 or 10th pick, I would still take Tari Eason. I just think he has the most defensive potential out of all the players in that range. And but yeah, I wouldn't be sad with any of the players that of those 5 that have been mentioned either.
Yep. Anything else you got, Krish?
Yeah, I was just thinking, like, if you're looking down the draft board and maybe let's say you're picking whatever somewhere between 10 and 14 later in the lottery, and those guys that you listed are off the board, do you maybe look further down the draft board and then start picking the guys that maybe you start leaning away from a guy like a Jalen Duren, who's more of a potential guy instead of a someone who's more like a NBA ready player, and you take a guy who's more like Trendon Watford, and he's just more of a NBA ready prospect instead, especially to pair up with Dame as you're trying to win, obviously.
Yeah, go ahead, Rick.
See, once again, I don't like taking someone unless I think they're going to be a better NBA player. So I don't really care about how long it takes. I understand the window's different in this particular situation, so you probably have to consider that. But the guys who are more ready to play are usually guys who have been around a little longer or are a little older, and those guys tend to fall for reasons because people don't see the potential in them, and they're win now guys, and most of the teams picking higher up are looking for higher ceiling players. So I feel like you can get some of those players later. I don't think we're in a position where we have to reach on like a Chris Duarte just because we need a guy who's ready to come in and play right now. But if he's the best player left, I also don't have a problem picking him. I don't know. Like, this is kind of like the Simons pick, right? It's like,
yeah,
you knew he was going to be several years away, but if he ever came close to his ceiling, you have potentially like a top 40 player in the NBA, right? So I would always take a chance on those guys if my draft process led me to believe he had that kind of potential versus someone who maybe went to school for a while and you know what they are. But at the same time, you can make the flip case of, Dame and CJ were both, so they both were at least 3 or 4 year guys in their respective colleges, and those turned out great too, and like they had high upside even though they seemingly were more win now type players. So like I said, it's just whoever I see is the best NBA player.
Yeah. All right. That's all, guys. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Chris.
Yep. Have a good one, Chris.
All right. So, Eric, are you going to rejoin via Skype for Around the NBA, or are you done for tonight?
Sure.
I don't know. You don't have to. I mean, there's the There it is. All right, I'm going to end the Twitter space. Thank you, everybody who called in. We got Eric back. His internet finally, I don't know, his internet decided to cooperate. So, boom, there he is. There's the man himself. And we're going to go around the NBA. We'll do a Tankathon sim and wrap up this stream very quickly. I'll run through the scores today. Eric, I had a terrible day in picks against the spread.
We all did, man.
I went 1-9.
Oh, wow.
At least I think I went 1-9, if I counted correctly.
Not
it
good.
Was tough. Tough day. I might have went 2-8, but
Utah came back. Is that your only win? I mean, not Utah didn't come back, but they ended up covering.
Yeah, I think that's my only one. Let's just hop around the NBA.
I lost that one. I might be right there with you, man.
Long as Jackson struggled too.
Nuggets only won by 10, so I got that one. Jackson won the Magic game, and then the Warriors
again.
Lost. Connor changing his pick worked out. Was that the one he changed his pick on?
Yeah,
no,
yeah, that was Magic.
No, he. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Let's hop around the NBA. So I took Pistons, Knicks, Kings, Raptors, Bucks, and Spurs, all right? That's the 6 scores on this sheet. It's not looking good, fellas. 103-94, Washington's a winner against the Detroit Pistons in a battle of some scrub teams. The Knicks continue to be frauds. They lose once again. They are in shambles. They lose to the Oklahoma City Thunder in overtime in New York City. The Thunder, playing without SGA and Lou Dort, still beat the New York Knicks. Josh Giddey had a triple-double. Trey Mann, another rookie, had 30 points for the Thunder. So, good game for them.
Terrible few days for the Knicks.
Mm-hmm. Yep, they didn't make a trade.
They blow a 23-point lead to us, and then, yeah.
That's rough, man. It sucks to be a Knicks fan right now. The Knicks are 25-33. The Kings have been playing well with Sabonis and Fox. They were 2-0, and they were going up against the Nets team without Harden, of course, because he got traded. So without Simmons, without KD, and without Kyrie, and they lose by 24. Seth Curry, in his first game as a member of the Nets, had 23 points. The Kings just could not score the ball. Domantas Sabonis, quiet game, 9 points. Fox had 26, but outside of that, not much of a contribution from anyone else. The Pelicans and the Raptors. It was the CJ McCollum versus Gary Trent Jr., a battle of former Blazers, Eric. CJ McCollum won that battle easily. CJ McCollum had 23 points, 5 assists, 4 rebounds, 9 for 13 from the field, including 5 for 8 from 3 for the former Blazer in 32 minutes. Gary Trent Jr., on the other hand, 6 points, 2 for 15 from the field, 2 for 8 from 3. So, CJ McCollum won that battle. The Pelicans, that's a win that you didn't want the Pelicans to get as a Blazer fan. It was a bad day for tanking for the Blazers because the Kings lost. The only good thing is the Thunder won, but the Kings lost. The Pelicans won. We didn't want that. And the Blazers won 122-107 over the Milwaukee Bucks. The Spurs lost. We're rooting for the Spurs as well, and they lost to the Bulls 120-109. DeMar DeRozan had 40 points in this game. He's been on a tear as of late. Honestly, a dark horse for MVP. He's been phenomenal all year long. You got the Magic losing to the Nuggets, 111-121. Jokic had 26 for Denver. The Jazz blow out the Rockets, 135-101. Gobert made his return today, and Donovan Mitchell had 30 points. And then this game is now final. The Clippers beat the Warriors, 119-104. Playing without PG, Kawhi, and newly injured Norman Powell, who has a broken foot. The Clippers still took care of the Warriors, who have been struggling lately. Steph Curry, 11 for 18 from the field, 33 points. But outside of that, not much contribution. Klay Thompson was 3 for 14, only 7 points for him. Terrence Mann, 25 in the win for the Clippers. Let's look at the standings. Every game is updated, I think, except for I don't know. We'll look at the Tankathon standings to look at the tank race, but the Blazers are still in 10th. Currently 2.5 games behind 9th for the Lakers and a half game ahead of the Pelicans for 11th. Spurs lost today. Kings lost today. The Blazers are 5.5 ahead of the Thunder, so going to have to lose a lot more in order to catch up to them. Not a good day for the tank race today. And it's time for Tankathon. Let's get Tankathon up on here. Let me figure that out. Boom. Tankathon. Where's it at? Right there. Cool. It's time for Tankathon. All right. So, Blazers currently in 9th. Pelicans pick to the Blazers currently in 8th. Blazers would have a 74% chance of keeping that. Their pick, 20% chance of the top 4. They are currently 2 games out of 7th, 2.5 games out of 6th. Blazers are 5 games out of 5th behind the Pacers, and then 5.5 games out of 4th. So the Blazers got to start losing if they're going to tank. Honestly, Eric, the Blazers might fall down to 10th pretty soon. They're only a game behind the New York Knicks.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, their odds of the top 4 would go down from 20% to 14%. Anyway, let's simulate the lottery and reveal it as usual. 14th, Charlotte. 13th, Washington. Oh, it just glitched out. 13th, Washington. 12th, Atlanta. 11th, Lakers pick to Memphis. Atlanta has passed them up. 10th, New York. 9th, you want to see the Pelicans pick going to Portland. 9th, it's Portland. 8th, it's the Pelicans pick going to Portland. Sacramento 7th, OKC, Houston, Indiana 4th, Detroit 3rd, Orlando 2nd, and San Antonio moves up from 7-1 in this Tankathon sim. So 8th and 9th picks for Portland. It would be interesting to see what they did with those picks, Eric, because you could maybe package those and trade up a little bit, or you could, there's 2 top 10 picks, but it's not in the range you necessarily want.
Yeah.
Anyway, that is the Tankathon sim.
I was doing the records.
Yeah, I figured. Do you have them now?
Yep.
I want to hear them in a second after we're done with this. Eastern Conference standings.
You want to hear them.
I'm still in second, right?
You're still in second, yeah.
How many games behind Jackson am I?
1.
Okay, I'm fine. I went 1-9 today, so I will take that because I did terrible. It was rough. Things might get interesting. Anyway, before we look at that, here are the Eastern Conference standings. Brooklyn in 8th. They finally broke their losing streak today. Good for them. Still jam-packed. Cleveland in 3rd. Miami and Chicago still battling at the top.
Charlotte fallen.
Yeah, Charlotte has been struggling as of late. They've fallen to 500, so Atlanta might be able to pass them up. Washington and New York, I think, are going to finish 11th and 12th. Both those teams are apparently in shambles. Let's look at the next 5 games. Memphis and then the All-Star break, Eric. We will have Blazers Uprise live before that Memphis game on Wednesday instead of Thursday, and then we'll have the All-Star break. The Warriors, Nuggets, Suns, and then Timberwolves out of the All-Star break. That's a pretty tough stretch. So it's going to be interesting to see if this team can continue their recent success. Anyway, that's the next 5 games. That's around the NBA. So what are the records? So I went 1-9. Jackson went 3-7.
Yep, I also went 3-7. Chat 2-8.
Ooh, I'm glad everybody else struggled.
Trevin 2-8.
Ooh.
Zach 5-5.
Good for you, Zach.
Connor 6-4.
Good for you, Connor.
All 7 of those people all lost their double down, so only one person won their double down, and it was the person with the best record today, who I have not mentioned yet, and that's Krish, went 7-3 and won his double down.
Wow. So Krish went from 31 games back out of first to...
He gained 6 games on you today.
Yeah, 6 games. So he's now only 26 games out first because Jackson's in first now. Connor's only, 6-4. Jackson went 3-7. So Connor's only 8 games out of first right now. Connor's only 8 games out of first. Chat is... What'd Chat go today, you said?
2-8.
Okay. So Chat's 7 games out of first still. Yeah, it's jam-packed. Join us on Wednesday for another Picks Against the Spread episode because things are getting a little bit interesting. Some mods made up some ground today. And then on Wednesday, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Shut up, ESPN. 11 games on Wednesday. So stay tuned. That'll be fun. That'll be on our second channel, Blazers Uprise Live. Link in the description box below. Anyway, anything else for the stream, Eric?
Thank you everyone for tuning in. Sorry I was having technical difficulties and couldn't make the beginning of the show, but appreciate everyone for tuning in, and hope to see you after the next game.
Yep, one more game before the All-Star break. We'll have you covered on Wednesday with 2 streams, so hopefully you're able to make it for those. Until then, have a good Tuesday. Have a good rest of your Valentine's Day. Until next time, as always, peace out. Go Blazers.